All sports, all the time.
There's heroes and there's legends. Heroes get remembered. Legends never die.
This is the Spoken Podcast.
Hold your ears, folks. It's showtime.
I'm your host, Lance Twidwell.
Man, that kid, he can ball, man. He can ball.
Touchdown, Kansas City!
Patrick freaking Mahomes, baby!
Let's talk some sports, because that's what we're here to do.
You are tuned in to The Spoken.
This is the Spoken Podcast. I'm your host, Lance Twidwell, here inside the Starcade Media Studio. My guy, Trevor Twidwell.
What's good?
Episode 248 is in full swing, full motion. We're so happy to be here with you and for you to be here with us. Whether you are live streaming, podcasting, or YouTube, we want to thank you so much for taking the time to be with us in this time as we have a Christmas edition show for you. We hope that you guys are having a blast in this holiday season. I know that sometimes it can be rough for some people. You know, we all have losses in our lives. We all know that we have things that are going on in our lives that can be stressful, but we hope that you guys can take at least an hour and a half, 2 hours to come hang out with us, have some fun. As you can see, I'm in the full festive spirit. I got my damn hat on. Well, this is actually Trevor's hat, but I stole it last minute before the show, and I got my Dwight Schrute on. I'm ready to go. This is going to be a fun show. I love this time of year because it's not just the holiday season, which is always cool, and, you know, Lifetime comes up with like the 15 same damn movies, but there's always good things that are going on in the NFL too, because this is the time where seedings really start to be implied, and you start to understand where teams are starting to line up as far as who's going to make the playoffs, who's not making the playoffs. Games are tense. It feels like it's already playoff time. That gets me pumped up, not to mention the fact that there's great MMA cards that have been happening of late, and if you guys want to talk about that, trust me, I'm always down to talk about that because there was a clown that lost a big fight just a week ago, and I'd love to talk about that. There's also been some great NBA games that are going on, man. We have the in-season tournament that just got done, some players, some new players coming back, some guys that are coming back that made some big impacts, both positively and negative, that we will definitely be talking about later on in the show. And we got a lot to get to on the show. And if you've not already done it, guys, go to our YouTube channel. I'd say at the top and bottom of every single show. Go to our YouTube channel, hit the Spoken Podcast, go hit like, subscribe, and notify so you know what we're doing every single time we go live. But most importantly, get in the chat, because as we do every single week, we have this segment where we call Speak It, where you give you guys the platform and the opportunity to take over the show for an entire segment, whatever you guys want to talk about, whatever your questions or concerns or your takes are on. We will give you that platform. We'll play it on the screen, and Trevor and I will react to them as diligently and honestly and as authentically as we possibly can. And then we look forward to that every single week, and we look forward to just being with you guys every single week because, again, I know this can be a rough time for a lot of people out there. And somebody I wanted to give a shout-out to before we proceed with our show is one of our most faithful viewers. We call him a brother of the show practically, because this guy is constantly contributing, always dropping stats, facts, being a real help to Trevor and I during shows, especially during like Speak It segments. Our guy John Harrison, first of all, he's fine, but he messaged me right before the show started this morning, and he let me know, guys, that he will not be with us live today due to unfortunate circumstances. He actually lost a dog today. They had to put him down because the dog was battling cancer. And I asked John if it'd be okay to share this story. I didn't get a response from him yet, but I hope it's okay with John, because in all seriousness, my heart goes out to John. Trevor and I are big-time dog lovers. I know a lot of you watching this, listening to this, are big-time dog lovers. And we love John Harrison here, man, because like I said, this dude is a big contributor to us. And whenever he's down, we feel down with him. So I just wanted to put that out there. Anybody that may know John, that wants to reach out to John, please hit him up. Let him know that we're all with him, because I wanted to put that out there first and foremost, that this is a community. This is about the people, and John is a big part of this community. And I feel horrible for him and his family, because like I said, I know that having dogs for long periods of time, or even short periods of time, they quickly become a big part of your family, become a big part of your life. And when they are gone, a part of you feels gone. So not to get all sappy to start this show, because like I said, I know we're all dealing with our own things, but I needed to put that out there because John's a good guy from what I know, and it seems like this is going to be a tough Christmas for him and his family, but we wish him the best. And if you can, like I said, guys, reach out to him and let him know that we're all thinking of him during the Christmas time. But let's get to some sports here, because Trevor, I pissed the people off this week, man.
What?
I know. It's not something I'm usually accustomed to. I know that everybody out there pretty much likes me, Trev. You know, I have a pretty good approval rating amongst Chiefs fans, as you can tell.
No.
But yeah, I managed to piss him off this week, dude. And what's funny is there are times when I know that I have an opinion that I'm going to share, and before I share it, I know that it's probably going to upset some people. But I'm going to share it anyway because, like, what do we always say on this show, Trevor? We tell people the truth. We give people our authentic takes, what we believe, how we see things going, whether it's going to make them happy or upset or indifferent. We got to share it. Well, that happened this week, and what's weird is that this was one of those opinions that I didn't think was going to receive a lot of backlash, if that makes sense. And if we could, Trev, let's just go ahead and put that first one up because this is the original tweet of what I put out there. I said, and this is the quote right here, I think Rashee Rice's ceiling is a high-end wide receiver too. Basically a fully healthy Sammy Watkins. Not the guy you build your wide receiver room around, but definitely a highly productive difference maker. Pair him up with a sure thing wide receiver one in 2024, and this offense is partying like it's 2018. Now, when I put that out there, I didn't really think much of it, like I said. And then I had a follow-up later on because I wanted to make sure that I got my full thought out there in context because I want to make sure that people know exactly why I feel the way I feel. And I know that there's a certain group of people, Trevor, that get triggered by the Sammy Watkins comparison because we all know that although Sammy Watkins was a contributor to this team winning a Super Bowl, and he played his part, and he had a very good playoff run in 2019, we know that for the majority of Sammy Watkins' time in Kansas City, he was considered a little bit of a letdown, if we're being honest. Sammy Watkins was a very talented receiver. We know this.
Yeah,
but we know that
an X factor a lot of ways.
But we know that he was hurt a lot, and it made people, kind of get sick of him. It kind of felt like a lower grade of Mike Sweeney, where you really liked the player, you embraced the guy, he seemed like a good dude, but damn it, he's always hurt, and it just gets kind of annoying after a while. But I stood by that comparison. Now, I'll go ahead and play that. Go ahead and show that second reel, Trevor, my follow-up tweet when I put that out there. I said, the Sammy Watkins comparison is something I stand by, and Chiefs fans should be happy about it, especially when you consider the fully healthy part and the fact that Watkins was the 4th overall pick in 2014. In Watkins' first 2 seasons, he averaged 63 receptions, 1,015 yards, and 7.5 touchdowns. Season 3 is when Watkins began to deal with injuries, but we all know in KC how much he helped win the Super Bowl 54. Being a high-end wide receiver too is no way a knock, especially if Rice can be that productive while helping the Chiefs reach the same type of Super Bowl prominence. So this is what I wanted to key in on, Trevor, because I feel that a lot of times when we talk about players being more of a realistic version of themselves as opposed to what we have high hopes for, it feels like we're being negative about that player. This to me, Trevor, this take, I never viewed this take when I presented it or when I was thinking and articulating it, and this is just for me. And I understand where other people are coming from. That's why I want to clarify some things. This take was never about what Rashee isn't, but rather what I think he is. Because we have to look at the league as a whole and think about how many awesome wide receiver twos there are out there right now. How many guys out there that have wide receiver one talent but end up becoming more of a possessions receiver, more of a guy that moves the chains, a guy that can step in a role at any given time, but more than likely he's not going to be the guy that is running 5, 6, 7 different route schemes. He's not the guy that you're relying on to go downfield and average 16, 17 yards per reception. I don't think that's Rashee's game. But the reason why I think he's a high-end wide receiver too isn't because of his limitations. It's because of what I think he's awesome at. And it is a lot like Sammy Watkins, because what we learned about Sammy was what, Trevor? He was probably drafted a little earlier than what he probably should have been. But Sammy was such a physically gifted receiver that once he had the ball in his hands, he could make things happen. He was a 6'2", or 6'1"-ish, 6'2"-ish, 200-pound receiver. That's exactly what Rashee Rice is. And if you go, and I even looked it up, Trevor, the comps from ChiefsWire, NFL.com, all these other places compared him to 2 different guys. It was DeAndre Hopkins and Sammy Watkins. Because DeAndre Hopkins and Sammy Watkins essentially have the same exact build. Now, DeAndre Hopkins was like that if he absolutely hits an unbelievable peak, because DeAndre Hopkins is one of the best receivers in NFL history.
Right.
That is a high, like, if he absolutely just hits the stars, basically, with his forehead. The realistic comp is Sammy Watkins. Now, my thing is, Trevor, if his realistic comp is a guy at the level, the talent and magnitude of a Sammy Watkins, then Brett Veach nailed this draft pick.
I'd say he's Sammy Watkins without the injuries.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I said fully healthy Sammy, because we saw fully healthy Sammy.
Right.
When fully healthy Sammy was here, you remember the Jaguars game to start the season? had 186 yards and 3 touchdowns. That was a difference-making player. Was he a wide receiver 1? No, of course not. But Tyreek got hurt in the game. Tyreek hurt his shoulder and had to leave the game early. And Sammy stepped in. Sammy wasn't the guy that the Chiefs built their offense around. But when you needed him to make a big play, when you needed him to have a big game, Sammy stepped up. That's what I think Rashee is going to be in this offense. I do believe the Chiefs are going to have to go and get a better, more talented wide receiver than Rashee for this offense to be at their best. I do believe that. Do I think Rashee's good enough to help the Chiefs win a Super Bowl? Yes. But I do believe the Chiefs know that they need to get better at wide receiver. You can't expect this guy to be the guy at all times, especially as a rookie. Could I be wrong? Yes. Rashee Rice could turn into a wide receiver 1, and I would be more than happy about that. If the Chiefs end up having a Bengals situation where they go and draft another guy or go and sign another guy, let's say the Chiefs ironically go get sign T. Higgins, right? And then Rashee turns into a wide receiver 1, Patrick Mahomes is never going to have another worry in his career. He's going to have 2 guys in their mid-early 20s that are wide receiver 1s. It's going to be like Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp over in L.A. And we saw what Matthew Stafford's inheriting right now, how beautiful that offense looks over in L.A. Yep. Imagine that with Patrick Mahomes. So that's my point, man, is that I'm more than happy to be wrong about this. Again, this isn't about the limitations of what Rashee is or could be. I'm not putting limitations on him. I'm telling you what I think he can and will be based upon what I've seen from him so far. He's only averaging 10 yards per reception. He's more of a yak yard guy. To me, that's not really a wide receiver 1. To me, that's a guy that's just going to move the chains. It's going to continue to be a consistent guy in this offense. What are your thoughts on it? Do you agree with me, or do you see like more of these other people that are thinking that no, he's already a wide receiver 1, he's going to be that guy? What are your thoughts on this, Trev?
I mean, he's definitely not a wide receiver 1. He's wide receiver 1 by default right now,
right?
Because he's put in that position, and he's grown. And he's listen. I will say this. I mean, he from what he's done in his rookie season and his ability to pick up this offense this quickly and show the intangibles, with the yards after catch and creating after the catch and having a nose for the end zone at this young and so early into this offense. With his lack of knowledge still, and what he could become with gaining more knowledge in this offense, what Andy could do with a guy like this, I still think there's a lot of untapped potential and a lot of unseen capabilities of what this guy could be. So I'm open ended to what he could become. I think he definitely could become. I mean, and wide receiver 1 honestly is just. I mean, unless we're talking about like the elite of the elites, wide receiver 1 is just a positioning on where you're at on this team as far as your usage and your target volume and all these things. So is he that right now? Yeah, by default, like I said, he is that by but target volume right now the last few weeks and red zone work, getting the touchdowns, all those things. So right now he absolutely is by default the wide receiver 1. But if we do go get a guy like you said, T. Higgins or a Michael Pittman or even a Mike Evans, if he comes over here, Mike Evans will probably be the alpha in the room. Who will be the go-to receiver most of the time. I believe that would be the case. But I mean, listen, man, I think this kid has a lot. I've told you when watching him and watching these games. I mean, it could be hyperbole a little bit, and in the moment, excitement when I watch this kid play and watch this kid score touchdowns on a weekly basis. But I said, this kid has a big chance to be a star in this offense, star in this league with Patrick Mahomes throwing him the ball. So Patrick Mahomes is known to provide a couple stars on one team. We've seen that numerous times throughout his career already. So could we go get another receiver, via free agency or in the draft and him maybe take a back seat to a possibly a better talented, higher talented guy? Sure. There's better receivers out there than Rashee Rice. But for the position he's in right now and the path that he's creating for himself right now, I think there is a position or a possibility to where Rashee could become the wide receiver 1 in this offense, and I wouldn't have a problem with that because I expect him to be a guy that takes the next step, the next couple seasons, and continue to get better and with more knowledge in this offense. And I think Andy Reid has shown that he's having fun, marking or drawing things up for this kid. So I definitely think he has potential to be the wide receiver 1. But I personally would like us to go get a true alpha,
right? A
guy that's already personally in free agency is what I would like, and drafting another guy. And adding real depth, not the depth that we thought we had heading into this season, but real depth with real talent. That would be ideal. It would be ideal if you have a guy that's your number 2 is as good as Rashee Rice has already been, and in his rookie year, going into year 2 would be. That's a good spot to be in, especially Patrick Mahomes throwing the ball.
I mean, shit, dude. Even if Rashee was to average the numbers he's already put up this season for the rest of his career, that's Tyler Boyd.
That's Sammy Watkins.
Yes, thank you.
He's on pace for 1,008 or 9 or 10 touchdowns.
Like, you know what I'm saying? And if you look at, again, the Sammy Watkins averages before he started getting hurt in year 3, that's kind of when downhill effect started taking place for Sammy.
Yeah.
Again, he was a 1,000-yard receiver, 7-8 touchdowns a year. That is literally exactly like you just said, what Rashi's going to do this season. Now,
think about it. Those are Sammy Watkins coming into an offense and pretty much being good out the gate.
Yeah.
This is Rasheed really having 7 really good weeks this year.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
7-8 really good weeks, and he hasn't really started. He didn't really get going until week 6.
Now, I'll say this, and this might be controversial. Imagine that. But this is something I also thought about, Trevor, real quick, and we're going to move on to our next topic before we get to this Chiefs-Raiders preview. Something else that I thought about when it came to this is I also think there is this, go with me on this, the beer goggles effect. I think a lot of people assume that Rashi is going to be a wide receiver 1. And when I say that, to clarify what you're saying, Trevor, about like what is a wide receiver 1 exactly, what I'm saying is, like you said, an alpha, a guy that you build your wide receiver room around, a guy that your offense can be predicated on. Whenever you think of the Chiefs, their offense, obviously it's going to be Patrick Mahomes. So who's he throwing to? Oh, the first guy that comes to mind. Like when you think of Peyton Manning and his Colts years, who's the first guy that comes to mind, Trevor?
Peyton Manning and Marvin Harrison.
Yeah, thank you. Like obviously Reggie Wayne was great.
Yeah,
and he ended up becoming wide receiver 1 to his own credit.
Solid number 2.
But yeah, thank you. But that was after the fact that Marvin kind of started to, he went away, and then Reggie became that guy.
Yeah. Again,
that's why I'm open-minded to Rashi becoming something like that. But again, I think that because of the fact that Chiefs wide receiver room is so bad this season, that Rashi looks that much better. Like imagine if the Chiefs would have had DeAndre Hopkins, Trevor, for a second. Obviously, DeAndre would be the number 1 receiver on this team. He'd be having a stellar season. He'd already have 1,000 yards. He'd probably have 8 or 9 touchdowns. And Rashi could probably still have 600 yards right now. He could probably still have 4 or 5 touchdowns right now.
And him showing his efficiency and what he does, he can do a lot with less.
Yes.
I don't think he's a guy that's going to need 11 targets a game.
Right.
He's not going to need all that. He's not going to need to be the target hog that Tyreek was.
Right.
Not saying that Tyreek wasn't efficient. He very much was. He was just so deadly. He's just like, you got to get that guy the ball as much as possible. But Rasheed is a guy I feel like it could be, have 4 or 5 catches and have 100 yards and a touchdown.
Right.
That's ideal, having a guy as your second option in the passing game, or second, third, depending on when Kelsey isn't gone, is ideal. So if we can go get it. I mean, obviously, me, bro. I'm all about loading up the offense.
And not to add violence to this, and I'm sorry if anybody out there is not gun-friendly about this, but just hear me out for the analogy sake.
Cover your ears.
Yes, just analogy's sake, okay? I'm not actually trying to present violence here, but I view guys like DeAndre Hopkins, Mike Evans, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Stephon Diggs, A.J. Brown, Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra, guys like that. I view them as like shotguns, AR-15s.
Those are the elites, man.
Heavy-hitting guns. Yeah. I view Rashee Rice like a 45. Like a dude that can get the job done, has knockdown power, but he's your secondary option. Like, oh shit,
take a kneecap off.
You know what I'm saying? It's like Commando. With George Schwarzenegger, he has the big old badass Browning and stuff like that. And he's blowing people away, and he drops that and he goes to his handgun. To me, that's what Rashee Rice is. Deadly as hell, but he's the guy that he's not going to be your first option. He's not going to be your first draw.
I'm just not ready to put a cap on him yet.
Exactly.
Because there's not.
I'm looking at it from what he's doing right now,
Sure.
even as the number 1 option as a wide receiver. He's still a guy that's relying more on yak, like dump off screens. He's only averaging about 10 yards per reception.
Yeah.
And you're right about how efficient he is, but let's be real. He had 9 catches on 9 targets last week, which is awesome.
Yeah.
He had 91 yards.
Yeah.
It's not like he's out there getting 13, 14, 15 yards of reception.
You look at it as like the gun analogy. I always go back to like the dating world. Like this is Patrick Mahomes in the bar, throwing shots. And I know he's taking ladies. I know he's taking.
Calm down now.
I heard, getting denied, if you will, drops, if you will. And to all these receivers, all these ladies at the bar, and then he finally gets one going, and everyone's like, "Oh, is she the one? Because she accepted your offer." You know what I mean? So this is the one that's consistent. You know what I mean? So that's what it seems like to me, man. Is that Rashee Rice is just he's the.
Trevor's not talking from personal experience, of course.
No. I mean, hey, it's a numbers game, baby. It's a numbers game. But yeah, no, I see what you're saying though with Rashee Rice and everyone wanting to, him being like the big hope, the great hope for this offense because he's the only one really producing in the wide receiver room on a consistent basis. So I get that, man. Yeah, it makes sense that why we would kind of glorify him as this savior in the wide receiver room, which he may or may not be, but it definitely feels that way right now because we need anything at this moment. So
speaking of anything, I feel like there's a lot of anything being spoken about at one Arrowhead Drive this week. I don't know if you guys saw it, and I want to move to this because this is a whole other topic, and it's a much more of a macro topic when it comes to the Chiefs because we're talking micro with Rashee is what he can become, what he is. But Blaine Gabbert had some discussions this week about what he thinks this Chiefs team can be and what they ultimately are. So I'm going to let's go ahead and put that on the screen, Trevor, if that's all right with you. So Blaine Gabbert was quoted as saying this week, Chiefs backup quarterback, by the way, in case you don't know, quote, there's eerie parallels between this season and the seasons that we had in 2020 in Tampa, where you got to find different ways to win, and we ended up winning the Super Bowl, end quote. So you know where Trevor and I have been standing on this team for the last couple of weeks now. We said that Buffalo Bills game to me was the proving ground of what this team is and isn't. I think because of the fact the Chiefs lost that game, I had to seriously question whether this team is able to win the Super Bowl because of the fact that it isn't about their opposition as to who is going to end this season prematurely for the Chiefs. It's the Chiefs themselves. I don't trust this team. The reason why I've been so confident in picking the Chiefs every single year to win the Super Bowl is because this team built trust within me to where I'm like, oh, there is nobody out there beating the Chiefs. The only team I can see beating the Chiefs are the Chiefs, and I don't think they're going to beat themselves. This season has been completely different in that context, which is why I find Blaine Gabbert's comments so interesting. Because if you remember that Buccaneers team, they started, I think, the season like 7-4. Chiefs beat the shit out of them. I know that the ending result was like a 7-point victory or whatever it was. Three points. Sorry.
Tyreek had like 200 receiving yards in that game.
Yes, it was like 230 something. I think at the end
he had
of the
like
game.
200 at half. Yeah.
The Chiefs only ended up winning like 27-24, but they were whooping that ass.
Yeah, we were destroying them.
The point is, what I'm trying to say though, guys, is that Buccaneers team wasn't nearly as good as far as a grand total is concerned as what ended up happening. The reason the Buccaneers won that Super Bowl is because literally everything went right for them. What do I mean by that? Well, in that season, Drew Brees with the Saints, who owned the Buccaneers, I might add, got hurt, had that severe rib injury. Drew Brees is also clearly on the end of his rope.
Yeah.
He was nowhere near the same great quarterback he once was. And that all went perfectly for them. They blew a big lead against the Buccaneers in the playoffs. But before that, let's bear in mind, guys, this was during the COVID year. Okay, there was no home field advantage for anybody. And what do you know? The Buccaneers had to go on the road 3 different times just to get to the Super Bowl, which, by the way, ironically, ended up having home field advantage in the Super Bowl with a limited crowd. I think they had like 12 to 13,000 people in the stands.
Yep.
So that is somewhat of a home field advantage, with also the consideration of you don't have to travel. So that's all factored in. They also had to face Tyler Heineke to start the playoffs off. No home crowd with Washington. Squeaks out a victory against that team. Heineke almost pulled that victory off. Then, like I said, against the Saints, had an absolute, I think the Saints had like a 14-point lead, blew that lead. Drew Brees was still hurt, old. I don't think he ever played again after that game. I think it was his final game. Mm-hmm. Then in the NFC Championship, no Lambeau leaps, no crowd. You know how that place gets, man. This place is nuts. I mean, Patrick Mahomes talked about it ad nauseum about how excited he was to play there because of the energy and that history of that place. The Bucs didn't have to go up against that. Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur were getting in their own freaking way by kicking a field goal, which helps them none. Aaron Rodgers instead of running in for a game-winning touchdown, tries to throw and force the ball. They blew that. But again, having all those quote-unquote excuses aside, you go to that the Super Bowl. What were the Chiefs up against over that season? Because, as I recall, the Chiefs only lost 1 real game all season. But what were the Chiefs going up against going into that Super Bowl? They had
a decimated offensive line,
a decimated offensive line.
Both
the Chiefs
tackles.
had both of their one All-Pro right tackle, Mitchell Schwartz, was out with the back injury since Week 5, and Eric Fisher in the AFC Championship in the fourth quarter tears his ACL or his Achilles. Tears his Achilles. So you're out both your tackles, and you're out, I think it was 2 guards as well, if I'm not mistaken as well, Trevor. They had 2 guards out as well. So 4 of their 5 offensive linemen going into the Super Bowl were backups. So I'm not trying to be negative here and say the Chiefs can't win the Super Bowl. I'm looking at this from the context of what Blaine Gabbert is saying. If he thinks that's how the Chiefs are going to get this done, then great. But I don't know about you guys, but I don't see it that same way. Yes, the Chiefs will have advantages going into the playoffs. Right now, as it stands, I think 3 of the 7 AFC teams, Trevor, that are in the playoff picture have backup quarterbacks. If I'm not mistaken, 3 or 4. Now that the Steelers are out of the playoff picture right now, they're in the hunt, but they're not in the playoffs. That is an advantage for the Chiefs. But as I told you guys before, and this is where I come up against Blaine Gabbert's comments, the Buccaneers weren't beating themselves. The Bucs lucked out because they didn't have to face road crowds or home crowds 3 straight times, and had the favor of being at home against a team with a decimated offensive line. That had nothing to do with what the Bucs were. That had everything to do with what their opponent wasn't. And that's the difference in this between what the Chiefs are and what those Bucks were 3 years ago. So I'm going to have to kind of push back on Blaine Gabbert's idea. I like the fact that he's confident in saying the Chiefs can find a new way to win, but that's what we've been saying all season. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, Trevor, but have we not been saying all season the Chiefs have to overcome their wide receiver room?
Yep.
And if that's what Blaine Gabbert's talking about, well, then no shit. We've been talking about this all season. I think you're starting to slowly see it against inferior opponents, albeit against a team like the Patriots, who have a good defense, but you saw the Chiefs put the blueprint out there. We're going to have to throw checkdowns to our running backs like crazy. We're going to have to rely on our backup tight ends when Travis Kelce's getting double, triple teamed. We're going to have to rely on these other guys that are unproven commodities or guys you don't normally rely on. But that's what's going to have to take, Trevor, in order for this team to win, because I have full confidence in this defense. I was having a conversation with our producer, Clay Windler, last night on Twitter, and we were talking about the Bills. And Clay, unfortunately, Clay has fallen for the Bills facade, where no one's playing better than the Bills right now. Well, no, that's incorrect, because the Bills are 3-3 in their last 6 games. They average 26 points per game and have given up 20 a game. So that's all right. 3-3 though. The Rams are 5-1 in their last 6, average 30 points per game, and are giving up 21 points per game. Clearly, the Rams are playing better football. And my point has been about the Bills and how they would be 2-4 right now if Kadarius Toney can line up correctly. Is that a scary team to you? No. The Bills are a team that, like the Chiefs, are getting in their own way, yet they're getting this treatment of being a fearful team and things of that nature. They're not even in the playoffs right now. And I look at the Chiefs right now as a team that could beat anybody, but because of moments like that, they're allowing other teams to stay in games. Like, look, if the Chiefs do what they need to do against the Bills, because, Trevor, you would agree with me on this, the Bills were not the better team on that field that game. They got shut. They 6 points in the second half. They gave up. They allowed the Chiefs' defense allowed them 6 points in the second half. I would like to believe with 1:12 left in the game, when the Chiefs scored that touchdown, Kadarius Toney lined up off sides, they go up 24-20. 1:12 left. I'd like to believe that Chiefs defense would stop the Bills from having to score a touchdown. They couldn't kick a field goal and win the game. They'd have to score a touchdown. I don't think they score that touchdown because they got shut down in 6 straight possessions in that game.
Sure.
So when it comes to this defense, Trevor, I think that the Chiefs can line up with anybody and beat anybody when it comes to how great this defense is. But their problem is far greater than their opposition. It's their own mental mistakes, their own mental errors, lack of discipline, lack of wide receiver talent. And for me, that's why Blaine Gabbert, to me, is a little bit off on this. I don't know what your thoughts are on it, but that's kind of where I stand on it right now. I don't think this is the same team, and I don't think the Chiefs are going to have that same type of luck because there's going to be crowds out there if the Chiefs end up having to play on the road.
Well, I mean, it's similar in the sense that, yes, big-name quarterback, stars on this team, have underperformed as of late. Heading into the postseason, got to try to find a way to win these games and for positioning and things like that. And we have obstacles to overcome. I guess it's similar in that sense, but it's not similar in the sense of how things are happening. Like you said, that Bucks team caught a lot of breaks. I mean, these teams aren't that similar, honestly, because the way Patrick Mahomes was playing, the way Brady was playing towards the end, like there's 2 different calibers of quarterbacks here at their point of their careers here. Both great defenses, of course, but there's just 2 different. To me, I agree with you, man. It is definitely there's some pretty obvious differences in the paths that we've been on this season. It's easy to kind of for Blaine, I guess, to grab at those comparisons because he's been a part of both of these teams, and I think this is just Blaine trying to give some holiday cheer to the Chiefs Kingdom and kind of give us some hope, because that was a team that did win the Super Bowl. Even though the Chiefs have already overcome odds to win the Super Bowls that they've won so far with Patrick Mahomes. So, I mean, we got, one leg and then, overcoming some deficits to get to that 2019 championship. So we've already been a team that is kind of prone to having to overcome some things or digging ourselves in a rut with our backs against the wall and still finding a way to meet the challenger head on and win those battles. So this team is battle tested, which is why I should give people hope. In any case, it's just this is a new challenge with the wide receiver room issues. This is a whole different issue that's going on here. We don't have Chris Godwin and Mike Evans to throw the ball to, in the wide receiver room here. So it's a whole different thing. You give Patrick Mahomes those offensive weapons alongside Travis Kelce, because obviously Brady had his Gronk there as well. So I think there are pretty obvious glaring differences here between those 2 situations, but I do see what Blaine is doing. I think it's easy, like I said, for him being a guy that's a part of both these teams, that team and this team, to make that direct comparison. But I'm not reading too much into it. I just think it's him, just like I said, trying to say, hey, we were going through some things. We had to overcome some obstacles and this and that, and we great quarterback, great coach, blah blah blah. We overcame it and still won the Super Bowl. So I think that's just him, giving a glimpse of hope to the fans that might be down on certain groups in this roster. So,
and for the record, Blaine doesn't have to say things like this because I don't think Blaine is the kind of guy that. First of all, you don't really hear a lot from Blaine Gabbert. He's a backup quarterback, and he's always been more of a stoic guy. He doesn't talk a bunch.
Sure.
So I think for him to say something, I think he does mean it.
Right.
I don't want to downplay because he has the experience factor. He played for the Bucs. He's playing with the Chiefs. He knows these teams inside and out. I think that when it comes to if he does believe that about this team, then obviously they're going to have to play better. It isn't going to be because, like I said, I don't want to take away from that Bucs team winning the Super Bowl. Winning the Super Bowl is winning the Super Bowl, but that was one of the luckiest runs to a Super Bowl in NFL history, and it worked out perfectly for the Buccaneers.
Yeah,
like they were the first team to ever have home field advantage, and again they faced a 14-1 Chiefs. They only lost one real game. And that offensive line was one of the worst offensive lines to ever play in the Super Bowl, if not the worst. Patrick Mahomes literally ran, I think, for almost 500-some yards and scrambling yards to try to just get away from Ńdamukong Suh and all those pass rushers. Like, it was just a one-sided event, man. It was horrible, and I like to forget that game for the rest of my life.
Yep.
I just think that if this team is going to win the Super Bowl this year, which I do have serious doubts at this point, I do think that it's going to come down to what they do, not whether they get the luck of the draw and they go to a bad home field advantage, or if they go to a bad quarterback situation, or if they happen to have a lot of advantages in the Super Bowl. I think it's going to come down to whether the Chiefs can execute or not execute. I think whatever happens, Trevor, however this season ends, is going to be based upon what the Chiefs do or don't do. And I know that sounds so dismissal and disrespectful to oppositions, but this is what I've told you all along, and this is what I tell you guys all along when it comes to the excuse about offenses being down league wide and how I don't give a shit. Because I don't standardize the Chiefs according to the rest of the league. I standardize the Chiefs based upon what they are and what I believe them to be and who they've been over the last 5 years. I don't hold them to the same standards I hold any other team. I expect this team to be in the Super Bowl because they have the best head coach and quarterback duo in the league, and to Brett Veach's credit, for the most part, has built a good team around Patrick Mahomes to do so and continue to win Super Bowls. So that's where I stand on it. That's how I think it's going to continue to go. I'm very much excited to see what's going to happen. I'm also very nervous. This is as nervous as I've ever been, Trevor, in the Patrick Mahomes era, because for the first time ever, I don't feel like the Chiefs have such glaring advantages over everybody else when it comes to an entire nucleus. This is a Super Bowl winning team. I do believe this team is worthy enough to win the Super Bowl, but I do believe this is the team of all of Patrick Mahomes' teams that can really stub their own toe, because we saw him do it in 2018, lining up offsides, D Ford. Saw it in 2021. You're up 21-3, and you're blowing that game. Those are all the Chiefs losing those games.
Right.
They had both those games won. And the only real legitimate loss that Patrick Mahomes has ever had is in the Super Bowl. And again, that's because of a horrific offensive line going against a great defense. I think the Bucs were like 8th in the NFL that year. So there's only been one legitimate loss where I could say, you know what? You just got to tip your cap, man. They were just the better team today. The Chiefs had too many injuries, and the Bucs just capitalized. Outside of that, Chiefs donated a victory to the fucking Bengals. They donated a victory to the goddamn Patriots. And that's why I sit here and say this team is going to be what determines who ends up representing the AFC. Is it going to be the AFC? Is it going to be the Arrowhead Invitational for 6th consecutive year? That's going to be interesting to see. I think it's going to really come down to what happens with the 1 seed, because I think that the Chiefs are going to need it more than anybody, because they're going to need to avoid a 3rd game. I think they're the type of team that needs to just play 2 to get to the Super Bowl, in my opinion. But we're still got 3 games ahead of us. We'll figure that out when that time comes. But that's where I stand. If you guys want to talk about that, get in the chat right now. Let me know what you guys think about this Blaine Gabbert situation when he talks about this team being a resemblance of what the 2020 Bucs were. Do you agree with him, or do you stand more on my side where I don't think there's a lot of connectivity there? I think that there are going to be 2 different teams and how they end up winning the Super Bowl if the Chiefs end up winning the Super Bowl. Trevor, let's get to this matchup, man. We're strolling along today. We're really moving along. I like this.
Yeah.
Chiefs host the Raiders this week, guys. This is one of the few teams this year that the Chiefs have actually had good offensive success against. We know that they played great against the Bears. We know they played great against the Chargers. They played decent against the Vikings. That was kind of an up-and-down game, but the Chiefs still scored 27 points, so I'll give them credit for that one. And at this point, 27 points is like hitting the lottery for this team. But this is one of those few games a few weeks ago where the Chiefs really put it together. Now, we do remember how that game started. The Chiefs were down 14 to nothing. Defense was getting gashed pretty early. We were pretty surprised by the way the defense was allowing big chunk plays. Bless you. Big chunk plays on the ground, and obviously Aidan O'Connell looked incredible to start the game. But what do we know about this defense each and every week? Even when they've shown that they draw blood early in games, they tighten shit up and they shut people down. They don't get beat for all 4 quarters. It has yet to happen this season. In fact, I'll go as far as to say they haven't been beaten in two or 3 quarters at a time. I think this defense continues to always fight back, get adjustments, and Bags, I apologize. I got to hold myself accountable to this. Bags has really put this together to where this defense is not a defense that I think can get beat for 4 quarters because they're so physically, athletically gifted at all 4 levels, or all 3 levels, I should say, that they always have enough to overcome what is clearly beating them early in the game.
Right.
So I think that's what's happening. That's what happened in this Raiders game. That was a proven testimony because, again, the Raiders start off 14 to nothing, and then the Chiefs go on a 31-3 run. And it just looked like it was so simple at that point. The Chiefs were just doing whatever they wanted. They were even doing trick plays. That pass to Patrick, the double reverse to Travis Kelce down the field. It was fun. It felt fun for a little bit. We started to kind of ease up. Trevor Book and I on the chatting with the Chiefs postgame show was having a blast. I think we smoked stogies after that game because it just felt right. It felt like a Chiefs game again. Well, the Chiefs have now a Raiders team that's coming into Arrowhead motivated, pissed off, and you know what? Confident, quite frankly, Trevor. You know why? Because the last time we saw the Raiders on a football field, they put up 63 points against a divisional foe in the Los Angeles Chargers and got Brandon Staley fired.
Franchise record.
Yep. And they could have put up more points, too, if they really wanted to. They could have went for the NFL record, just like the Dolphins could have against the Broncos, ironically. But yeah, the Raiders are coming in here feeling good, and they should. They should feel very confident coming in this game because, like I said, they're playing their best football at this point of the season. Aidan O'Connell looked good. Devontae Adams, weirdly enough, is not really getting involved a lot in the offense. He's not. If you look at the last 6-7 games, Rashee Rice has better numbers than Devontae Adams. I wish I had that stat because they showed it on First Things First this week. But Devontae Adams is really taking a step back in his offense. It's been Jacoby Myers, the running game, things of that nature. Now, do we know anything about where Josh Jacobs is in this game?
The last I checked, he was questionable.
Yeah.
He might give it a go, but I don't really see why. I mean, for his sake, because this is he's going to be a free agent after the season, so because he was tagged this year. So for him, man, I think it's best he take it easy. But I honestly, there's still. I mean, seeing that this is a Christmas Day game, they have a little extra time to kind of keep things under wraps on what they're going to do with him. So I don't think anything's been announced yet, as far as what I've seen.
Yeah, well, let's go ahead and look at the numbers, Trevor, that the Chiefs had against the Raiders in that first game, just to kind of get some context here. Let's look at the team stats.
Gotcha.
So in that first game, the Chiefs had 23 first downs to the Raiders 16. Where I think it was interesting was how the Raiders are actually one of the few teams, Trevor, that did well on third down against the Chiefs. They were 7-14. They completed 50% of their third downs. That's what extended the chains. Now, the Chiefs did keep them 0-2 on fourth down. But they matched the Chiefs essentially on total yards. Passing yards weren't that much different. They dominated the Chiefs in the run game with 123 yards.
A lot of that was on one play.
Yeah, well, that's true. But I'm saying that, but total plays, they both had 58. And like I said, the turnover battle was basically nothing. There was zero turnovers in this game, and both teams only got sacked once. So this was a pretty even match when it looks at the grand scheme of things. But what ultimately did what changed the outcome of this game, Trevor? It was Patrick Mahomes and being the great player he is. Now let's show the other stat, Trevor, where it shows Patrick Mahomes' numbers, his career numbers against the Las Vegas Raiders. So Patrick Mahomes in his career is 10-1, completes 61% of his passes, 304 yards per game, almost 8.5 yards per attempt, 31 total touchdowns, 29 throwing, only three interceptions, with a 114 quarterback rating. The reason I'm showing you these stats because I know what you guys are going to say, and trust
to do that in 11 games is wild.
Yeah. Now, I know what people are saying because you're going to try to call me out on it, and trust me, I said it to myself this morning when I was going over my notes. Lance, this isn't the same offense, so you can't really use his career comparisons against the Raiders and say that means anything in this point. But it actually does, guys, because if you look at Patrick Mahomes' numbers against the Raiders in the previous game, he completed 27 of his 34 passes, had 2 touchdowns to 0 interceptions with 298 yards, and that's with the Chiefs easing up at the end of the game. So Patrick Mahomes stayed right on stride of what he did against these Raiders, no matter who he's throwing the ball to. This is one of those matchups, guys, that I think is going to be consistent for Patrick no matter who he's throwing the ball to throughout his career, because some teams, guys just own. We saw Tom Brady with a myriad, a revolving door of wide receivers throughout his career, but he dominated the Jets, dominated the Bills, dominated these teams, dominated that team. It didn't matter. Sometimes a guy's just got a team's number. And that is what happens here with the AFC West as a whole, but in particular with the Broncos and with the Raiders. And I think that Patrick Mahomes, Trevor, is once again going to have a monster game against this Raiders team. Also with the fact that the Chiefs know they got to win this game, man. This is a game they can't mess around in. They know this is a game that they can. If they win this one, Trevor, Dolphins somehow lose to the Cowboys at home. Sorry. Dolphins lose the game to the Cowboys at home. The Ravens lose to the Niners. All of a sudden, man, it's within a game of getting to that one seed. And the Chiefs, like I said just 5 minutes ago, they're the team of all the teams that I believe needs that. Not that I'm afraid to see Patrick Mahomes on the road, or that I don't think the Chiefs can win road playoff games. It's that extra game. Nobody else in the NFL, not the AFC, nobody else in the NFL has played more games over the last 5 seasons than the Chiefs.
Right.
That, even though the Chiefs are a young team, that takes a toll on your key players. Your Patrick Mahomeses, your Travis Kelce's, your Joe Tooney's, your Chris Jones's, your L'Jarius Sneed's. The veteran guys that have been carrying this team for the last 3 to 5 years are the guys that need that break. They need to take a breath, man. It's a 17-game schedule going into the playoffs. You don't want to have to play 21 games. That's the point I'm trying to make. So if the Chiefs can get this game and get this game over with quick, this is why we talk about capitalizing in games like this. I hated the fact that the Patriots game got a little too close at the end because the Chiefs had to play a little bit more football than they should have in that game. Granted, Kadarius Toney donated a possession to the Patriots. Nevertheless, if they can come in here and get a quick victory against the Raiders, Trevor, and rest up for the last 2 games of the stretch, then we're looking at a team that not only has a shot at the 1 seed, but can be very well rested regardless of where they land in the seedings respectively. I think that this is going to be a game, Trevor, where the Chiefs come out here and look sharp. I think they're going to come out here and look good because they're a team that's coming back home for what seems like it's been, 2-3 weeks now since the Chiefs have been back to Arrowhead. I think they go out there and they execute very well on offense. I know that sounds crazy coming from me, but I think that the Chiefs found something in their offense that actually got me a little excited against the Patriots, where they started to utilize their running backs in the pass game, plus the fact that Isaiah Pacheco will be back for this game.
Yes, sir.
It's huge. Huge to have the ground and pound back, and I do think you're going to see Clyde Edwards-Helaire utilized in this offense, Trevor.
Well, yeah.
I don't think that was
I think McKinnon might not play.
He may not.
He's still dealing with that groin.
Yeah, so I think they're going to try to rest him up and keep him as healthy as possible for the stretch. Clyde Edwards-Helaire gets utilized, and who do they throw the ball to first against the Patriots, Trevor? Noah Gray for a 32-yard completion.
And then never again.
Yeah, exactly. I know. Trust me, I'm not trying to sound logic on that one. But
right.
I do think this is where the Chiefs can play good, sound football, because also they are trimming fat. As we know, Sky Moore is now on the IR.
Yep.
And not to be Mr. Conspiracy Theorist here, guys, but is it not convenient to you that Sky Moore's 1 reception in the game, which by the way was negated by a penalty, but nevertheless, his one time of catching the ball, he fumbled it. Would have been a possession added to the Patriots had that holding call not happened. He goes on the IR due to a knee injury.
Swelling.
The moment 𝚂𝙿𝙾𝙺 is now off the IR. Guys, I'm just going to call it what I see. This is Sky Moore getting benched for the rest of the season. He's not a good player. He's not a good football player, and I told you guys he's a bust. This is the Chiefs moving off of Sky Moore. I fully anticipate that Sky Moore will not be on the Chiefs team coming 2024, and if he is, he's a guy that's just fighting for a position battle. He's not in here guaranteed a spot, or a guy that's just kind of getting through the weight training and the rigors of the heat of August up there in St. Joe. No, this is a guy that I very much think is on the outs with the Chiefs, and I think by trimming some of that fat and giving some of these purposeful snaps to guys like Richie James who can prove themselves, 𝚂𝙿𝙾𝙺 who can reestablish himself in this offense, and then Justin Ross coming back into the equation, I think this offense could look that much more fluid. I'm not saying that Richie James and Justin Ross and 𝚂𝙿𝙾𝙺 are the answer, but you know who I know wasn't the answer? Sky Moore and MVS. I would very much like to see those guys, and it sounds like Kadarius Toney might be inactive as well, which I know I made another controversial take this week. I don't think Kadarius Toney should be active this game because I don't think he's earned the right to play in this game, Trevor. I know he's a skilled player, and I know you and I both would very much love to see Kadarius Toney take that next step. But Kadarius Toney, Trevor, when he's on the field, more times than not, by far, is hurting this offense to the point now where Patrick Mahomes is outwardly showing his emotions on the sidelines about how pissed he's getting at Kadarius. I know he says in the press conference, I'm not mad mad at him individually and all this. Yes, you are, Patrick, because I was. We're all sick of it. So trim the fat.
And I believe he said every damn game or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So trim the fat, get rid of the waste. I hate to say it that way, but it's the truth. Guys that are wasting snaps, get guys in there that are motivated and ready to be a difference maker. And I think that's why you'll see this offense look a lot more fluid this week, because I think Patrick Mahomes will be able to throw to guys that can actually catch the damn ball. What are your thoughts on this matchup?
Chiefs win. But I listen, I do think this game will unfortunately be competitive. And I think like you said, like you started off your whole diatribe with, the Raiders are confident right now. The Raiders know that they can go and start out hot against us because they've done it already this year. Aiden O'Connell, was pretty good those for the first half for the most part. And this is divisional games. I mean, we very rarely blow each other out in this division, no matter how bad or how good one team is there over the other. And the Chiefs just don't tend to blow teams out, so I feel confident we win. But I think this is going to be another one of those games where it's similarly, to the last one. Obviously, we won comfortably last. It was a 31-17, right? So we won comfortably, but I don't think I think we're just trying to do what we got to do to get the win and stay healthy. And this feels like one of those Andy Reid games where we get like a 10-point lead or something. We just kind of grind it out, let our defense go to work, run the hell out of the ball in the second half.
That's actually what I want, though.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't need a sexy win. Just go put these Raiders down, do our job, get out clean, get out healthy. We don't need Isaiah to get banged up anymore. We don't need anybody else to drop, passes or bodies.
Right.
So I think this is just kind of a get in, do your job, clean your hands, go home kind of situation for the Chiefs. But I would like an exciting game. It is Christmas. That'd be a fun gift for us, as the adults in the room. We're not opening presents. You know what I mean? So that'd be a fun one to open, right? So I would like to enjoy some eggnog and watch the Chiefs beat some ass. That'd be great. That would be, that would put me in the holiday spirit real quick. So, I'm looking forward to smoking my victory cigar. That's for sure. But I just think this is one of those games where Pat throws a couple, Isaiah might run one, our defense does their damn job in the second half and puts the game away. But yeah, I don't think there's Kadarius, I know that he has an injury now somehow. I know a lot of people are telling, pushing for the Chiefs to give him like a mental day or a mental break on a game and kind of let him sit down and kind of deal with,
I'd like the Chiefs to take a mental day.
Oh, sure. Some sort of like consequence for Kadarius, for what he's done, and damn near costed the team 3 games, this year. So I get that, but you could do that for almost every receiver on this team. I know he's been the consistent one that's cost the biggest blunders as far as tips and drops turning into interceptions. Yeah, man, I don't know. With Sky out, I'm interested to see how this rotation goes. I would like to see some Richie James, at least give him a chance to see what he can do, because I know I've seen that guy play football just last year with the Giants. That guy, he's a good football player. Not the biggest guy, but he is a guy I feel like that could be good in this offense for the kind of skill set he has and what we've seen Andy Reid do.
Yeah, you even heard Andy Reid say in the press conference after the game against the Patriots, he goes, "We got to get more snaps to Richie than 2."
Yeah,
he had 2 damn snaps.
Or even if we got to delegate Kadarius if he does play, delegate him just to returning purposes. We know he's great at that. We know that if there's one thing he's really good at, it is that.
Well, I will
have
say
Richie
this.
James play in his wide receiver snaps.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that was actually going to be my next point, that there could be a cause and effect of the effectiveness of Richie James in this offense, because you're right.
Yeah.
Let's say Richie
Especially
James
with
goes out
Sky
there.
out too.
Let's say Richie James goes out there and has 60 yards and a touchdown in this game, which I do think is possible. He was a good receiver for the Giants last year.
Well, he's a guy that can run the ball too.
If that does happen and the Chiefs are hell-bent on keeping Kadarius Toney involved in some level, you're right. Because what does everybody talk about when it comes to Kadarius Toney being a Chief, Trevor, and why we need to defend the guy?
Right.
Because of his 60-plus yard return.
It was great. He is good at that. He had a couple nice ones already this year.
I will never knock him in his special teams. I think he's a very good returner.
He makes guys miss. He knows how to
in the open field, there's very
tackles.
few guys in this league that are more deadly with the ball than Kadarius. Very few.
It's unfortunate, but yeah, you just got to catch the ball.
You got to catch the damn ball. And so when you can't catch the ball, okay, do punt returns. Be in special teams, man. And like I said, I'm kind of rooting low-key that Richie James can be effective in this offense.
Well,
and that way it does force Andy Reid's hand to, if Kadarius Toney ever does line up on offense, Trevor, it's for gimmicky, reverses, jet sweeps, things like that. No 5-yard dig routes, no 10-yard fades. I don't want to see him run routes for the rest of this year, dude, because he's not a reliable receiver. Is he a talent? Yes, but I think as we see it more and more, what Kadarius Toney is showing me, Trevor, is he's more of an athlete than a gifted football player. I don't know how good of a football player he is. I think he's a freak athlete.
Yeah.
Dude is a freak athlete. Can move his body, contort in ways I've never seen a human body outside of Shakira do. But I'm saying he, as a football player, how good is he actually? That's the question we have to ask.
I'm not saying in any way this is not even a fair comparison, but I'm going to say it anyways. That's the similar pre-draft chatter that was going on about Tyreek Hill entering the draft too. How great of an athlete he was, how a freak of an athlete he was, but how good of a footballer, what's his IQ like?
Yeah.
Is he a receiver? Is he a running back? That's the kind of guys Andy Reid likes, though. You know what I mean? Taking these freak athletes that a lot of people have given up on, the Giants, teams that have he was drafted in the first round because he is that great of an athlete. But we do know he has issues catching the ball. But is there not a better spot for Kadarius, though, to develop and become a good player in this league other than Kansas City and Andy Reid?
We're talking about this is the end of his third season in the league.
Sure.
Like by Tyreek's end of his third season,
he was
already
an
an 1,200 yard receiver. This was a deadly receiver in the league by his second year. And this was with Alex Smith. This wasn't even with Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
By 2017, go look at Tyreek Hill's numbers. If I'm not mistaken, and we can look it up real quick just to make sure I'm telling it straight, because I don't want to lie to the people here, Trevor. I'm not trying to be a politician. But when it comes to Tyreek Hill's second season, 2017 so 2016, his rookie season, when he actually came in as a running back special teams guy, he had 61 receptions for 593 yards and 6 touchdowns. Dude, I'd take that with Kadarius Toney right now.
Yeah.
Second season, 75 receptions for 1,183 yards and 7 touchdowns. Averaged 16 yards per reception.
Yeah, but the opportunity was there for Tyreek. There's been
been there for Kadarius.
Not nearly to the degree that Tyreek Hill had walking into the league, man. He was immediately put into a situation where he was getting a lot of work.
No, because
Tyreek
actually had guys to battle with.
No. Kadarius Toney he's been in the league three years. He's only played like legitimately a season and a half.
Right, because he's also got injury problems.
Sure, that's what I'm saying. So it's different between him and Tyreek. Tyreek didn't deal with those things and put him back and had those setbacks heading into his career. He kind of hit the ground running, literally and figuratively, as a football player, and that's not been the timeline. I'm just talking about the direct comparison about the athlete. Is he a better athlete than he is a football player, or is he going to translate that athleticism into becoming a football player? I still believe Kadarius Toney can, but if he's going to continue to drop the ball, there's not much I can say for the guy, man.
I just don't. Look, I think we're at a point now, especially now that we've seen what Patrick Mahomes' body language and what he's doing on the sidelines. I think that's now the breaking point. We've seen enough. Sure. I don't know how. My question is, if it isn't enough yet, how much more do we need to see? Because again, this dude's been with the team now. This is what. His 22nd game with the team?
I agree.
Okay, man, eventually you're going to have to start balling. You're going to have to start balling. And you're just not. This is the same thing with Sky Moore. We've seen him now for 28, 29 games. You're not a good player. You have one freaking touchdown in your regular season career. It's time, dude. So you have other options. They may not be good either. But the fact is we don't know what they can be. Yeah. So give them the freaking opportunity. This is why I said it's time to give Justin Ross. I know we're going
this is a good game to do it, yeah.
Yeah, but it does segue back into this Raiders matchup. Sure. This is an opportunity for these next 2 games against the Raiders and Chargers, or Raiders, Bengals, and Chargers, these next 3 games against teams you should beat. If you want to talk about experimenting, remember our guy Nick Wright was always talking about practicing and all that ridiculous crap when he was saying that at the beginning of the season. That's not the time to be doing that.
Pretty quick,
yeah, that's not the time to be doing that. When you have a chokehold or a stranglehold on your division, you have a matchup for the next month of inferior opponents. That is when you should be able to say, you know what, let's try that guy out. Let's give him
let's get a 10-point lead and give Justin Ross some reps.
Let's give Justin Ross, Richie James, and McCole Hardman a combined 20 targets.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
I'm not worried about McCole. I don't think McCole's going to get that much work this week.
I know, but I'm saying
we know McCole. We know who McCole is.
If you gave all 3 of those guys 6-7 targets apiece, is this offense really going to be any worse than what it was before? No, not my opinion. Because you saw what happens when those guys like Sky Moore, MVS, and guys like that are getting targets, getting snaps. This offense isn't good enough. So you have to go with what you have available because you're not going and finding that difference maker out there. I know they signed a tight end and a receiver this last week. Okay, great. Let those guys be on the practice squad and fill in for the roles these guys are now going up one peg. I want to see Mecole Hardman, I want to see Richie James, and I want to see Justin Ross finally become an implemented part of this offense. Not out there running decoy. I want to see them running legitimate routes where they're the first or second, on the read. If Travis Kelce's taking a blow, let them be the first or second read. Patrick gives them the ball, hits them on the numbers, and see if they can't catch that damn ball.
It'd be nice, but this means Justin Watson's going to get 10 targets and 8 catches for 75 and a tutty.
Well, you know what? At least Justin Watson can catch the fucking ball.
Yeah.
Like, I've gotten to that place. I'm not a Justin Watson fan. I've eaten my crow with
He's been
him.
one of the more reliable guys this year.
Yeah. That's why I'm okay. You notice I didn't say shit about him.
Yeah.
Like, he can stay on the field. I'm good.
And he's a good route runner.
But as others have said this last week, I'll even give Carrington Harrison credit. He said it this week about how we shouldn't be talking as much about Justin Watson as we do.
Oh, yeah.
We should.
It's a shame.
He should be a wide receiver 5, as I was talking about all season long about, guys, this is not a wide receiver 1. This guy's a wide receiver 5 at best. But we have to talk about him so much because there's so few options.
Yeah.
Like I said about beer goggles, sometimes they look better than what they really are.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's happening with Justin Watson. That's why he's playing so much. That's why MVS is playing so much along with his $11 million contract this year. But I digress. I want to see the options now of guys that are waiting and been waiting in the wings for the longest time to finally get their shot. If Richie James goes out there and has a big game, does that not open up this offense?
Yeah.
If Justin Ross goes out there and catches some big 50-50 balls or gets a corner fade touchdown, does that open up this offense?
Yeah, I miss those throws. I miss those kind of plays.
That's what I'm looking at. So, Trevor, let's get to your key players of this game. Who are your 2 guys in this one? How do you see? Or basically, it can be offense, defense, offense. No matter how you do it, who are your two guys?
Offensively, I think, man, it's tough because we don't know if Kadarius is playing. We don't know how much McColl's going to play. We know Rashee Rice is going to be the go-to guy as far as wide receivers go. For me personally, I feel like this is just going to be. I think Pacheco's going to get some work coming back into the game. But at the same time, how good is that shoulder? I know he's good to go. I know he's going to play. So I'm just going to say the running backs. Clyde, a bounce. I think Clyde earned his stripes again this past game. Obviously, regained. He's always kind of had the trust of Pat because he's had some plays like that throughout his career with Pat. When plays break down, he finds a way, and he catches a nice ball in the end zone. I'm just going to go with the running back room. I think, or running in general. Maybe if Pat runs a little bit, which Pat has not been running the ball barely at all. He's been pretty much playing strictly as a pocket passer the last several weeks. Hasn't not ran the ball much at all. So, I'm not expecting a lot of running from Pat. But I think this running back room to seal the deal, against this Raiders team. I think Pat's going to do what he needs to do, but as far as this game, I think this game is going to be controlled and iced by our ability to run the ball. The Raiders defense has been playing better as of late, but I'm just going to go with the rushing of this offense in between Pacheco and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And then defensively, I think there's another game where George Karlaftis kind of gets out the schneid. I don't think he had a sack last week, so I think he has a good chance of maybe possibly getting a couple, with Chris Jones, and I would like to see Omenihu. I haven't been too impressed with Omenihu the last several weeks. He hasn't been mentioned. You want to see a guy like that, his name mentioned and out there causing a ruckus, but he hasn't really been doing that as of late. I expected him to be a little bit more than what he's been, if I'm being honest. His presence hasn't really been felt much the last several weeks, so I would like to say him. But I'm not expecting that. I expect George Karlaftis to go do his job, and I think he goes out there and has a really solid game, man.
I like it. So I don't know if you saw this. You probably didn't, but our producer Clay Wendler just tweeted out a little bit ago. Aiden O'Connell's home versus road splits. So his QB rating from home to road drops 25 points. At home, he completes 64% of his passes, 62 on the road. He averages roughly 200-ish yards at home and about 150, 160 on the road. He has 6 touchdowns and 2 interceptions at home, 2 touchdowns to 5 interceptions on the road. In other words, Aiden O'Connell's not been good on the road this season.
Sure.
And I think with a raucous crowd at Arrowhead, there's what I heard. It's sold out still with being on Christmas Day. Still, there's gonna be 70,000+ people there.
I know they're giving out some discounts on tickets too.
Yes, I do think that it's gonna be a raucous crowd. I do think there's gonna be some Raider fans do show up. I will say there's gonna probably be 8,000 to 10,000 Raiders fans there, which is cool because I actually welcome that.
There's a good amount of Raiders fans that live here too.
Oh,
we know a lot of them.
We know plenty of them.
Yeah.
The point is that I think that Aiden O'Connell is going to really struggle in this game, and people can think, well, it's going to be because of the pass rush. I actually do think the pass rush is going to play its role, Trevor. but I think that it's going to be because of the others in the secondary. This might shock you. I'm going to say that it's going to be Justin Reed this week. I'm not the biggest Justin Reed fan.
He's had a hell of a year, man.
He's been fine. He's been okay. I think it's going to be because of where he shuts down the middle of the field with the linebackers, that Aiden O'Connell's not going to be able to hit the guys he wants to hit on a normal basis. You saw
Michael Mayer.
You know how the Chiefs, when I was telling last week about how the Patriots, they didn't let the Patriots run game get in rhythm. They didn't let Ezekiel Elliott get that rhythm because they were hitting him early in the downs and they were hitting him in the backfield. That totally changed the whole offense for Bailey Zappi. The Patriots are out of rhythm all game. This Raiders offense, in my opinion, if Josh Jacobs doesn't go or he's banged up or he's making business decisions, is going to need to make those big chunk yards through the air and get those big passes down the middle of the field like they like to throw the ball down the field. I think Justin Reed is going to be the guy that stops that so much so I think he's going to pick off Aiden O'Connell in this game. I think he's going to be the one that makes there's going to be a 3rd and 12, and they're going to take a big shot to Devontae Adams, and Justin Reed's going to just pick that ball, run from the middle of the field, read his eyes, take that ball away, make Aiden O'Connell feel uncomfortable all game. Sure, the Chiefs, like I said, they can get a couple sacks in this game. I'm sure Chris Jones will be in the backfield. Amenahu will eventually start to work that contract out. George Karlaftis has been an animal this year, so I'm sure he'll play his role. But I'm looking at the back end of this defense, and I think that Justin Reed makes a statement in this game against an inferior opponent and does his job really well. On the offensive side, look, guys, I've been one of the few defenders out there, and I'm going to continue to be a defender of this guy because I believe he's fresh, ready to go, and to make a statement and showcase his abilities for one more opportunity elsewhere after this season. I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to be an X factor in this game again. Clyde is showing us, and I said it in the postgame with Trevin Book on the Chatting Up the Chiefs postgame show, when Clyde has been given opportunity and has been set up for success, what does he do? He succeeds. This man has had 20 touchdowns in his career. Whether you want to acknowledge that or not, that's a good amount of touchdowns for a guy that's battled injuries and has been a backup for the majority of the last 2 years. For a guy to have 20 career touchdowns, that's something. So I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire being the backup for Isaiah Pacheco more than likely. Jerick McKinnon may try to give it a go, but I think if Jerick McKinnon is out of this game and Clyde Edwards-Helaire take those snaps, pass protects, which is not his strength, but is back there with Patrick Mahomes, maybe a double back set where they have both Pacheco and Clyde on the field, check down screens, things of that nature, which is something the Raiders actually really struggle against, is dump off screens. I was looking at that. They're one of the worst defenses in the league against it. I think the Chiefs could utilize that against them. I think obviously Isaiah Pacheco is going to get the bulk of the snaps, bulk of the carries, but I also think the Chiefs want to keep him as healthy as possible, which is why they may not have him running as much physical downs, where I think that they try to get him back into his body being healthy as possible, where Clyde comes back into the equation. I think Clyde gets some runs as well, because he's also been running the ball decently, about 4.5 yards a carry when he's been getting the ball, when he's been getting opportunities. So I like Clyde big in this game again. I know that's not a popular, sexy choice for a lot of people out there, but I think Clyde is going to be the one that once again, and this is what I said before the season began, Trevor, he's a guy that Chiefs are going to lean on in some games like this to keep some other guys fresh.
Sure.
Because Clyde's not a guy they look to as a long-term answer anymore. I think he's going to be a guy they utilize and let him go out there and try to earn his keep.
And he catches the ball.
And he catches the damn ball.
That was,
I mean, the catch of the week last week. I don't care what anybody says.
That was cool, man.
So I like
cool
to see him keep that rolling. I didn't go as far as say I think Clyde can get another touchdown in this game. I think he's going to be an effective player in this offense, and I think he's going to help the Chiefs win this game. Trevor, Chiefs win. You don't have to give a score prediction, but you do believe the Chiefs are going to win this game. You say you think it's going to be more of a tighter game, but you think the Chiefs can run the clock out.
I think we can win by double digits, but I think it'll be kind of one of those games where we kind of pull away at the end and we kind of let them hang around a little bit too long for our comfort. But I mean, I think we know through and through in this game who the better team is, and I think we win by double digits.
I agree. Trevor and I we've already given you guys our picks for the Bengals, Steelers, and Bills, Chargers for today on our social media platforms. Trevor and I are both picking the Bengals and Bills in those matchups. I think the Bills are going to win convincingly because the Chargers don't have Keenan Allen and they don't have a starting quarterback. They just fired their coach. I know that tends to be something that lifts teams up. If they had Justin Herbert, I think there'd be a much better chance they win this game. I don't think there's any shot in hell the Chargers do, even though it'd be hilarious if they did, which I would love to see. But I think that the Bills win that game convincingly 31-14. And I have the Bengals in an AFC North classic going up to Pittsburgh and stealing a victory. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game as usual. I think the Bengals are going to win that game 17-10. Trevor, what do you think happens in those two games?
So the Steelers and Bengals game.
Yeah.
Those interdivisional games there tend to always be tough, hard-fought games. No matter, it's similar to the AFC West, right? Like it doesn't matter what the roster is, who the quarterbacks are, who the coaches are. Those teams just know each other. Especially in that division, it's such a gritty, defensive-driven division most of the time. And I like what I've seen out of Jake Browning, and I expect him to do enough to win because he's already shown that. He's had some tough grind out wins, and Zach is a hell of a coach.
Right.
I love that guy. He's one of the better up and coming coaches in this league. So I do expect the Bengals to win this game. I think it's a grindy out kind of game, but I think the Bengals are the better team at this point. I think there's a lot of shit going on over there in Steelers Nation. Granted, it is in Pittsburgh. It's a tough place to go win, but not really this season. They've been kind of laying down a couple times, a few times here at home. So I'm expecting the Bengals, the better team at this point, to go win that game. And then the other game is the
Bills-Chargers.
Bills-Chargers. I mean, we know coaching changes and things like that can spark, and a new voice in the locker room can change some things, possibly make them. We've seen that with the Raiders. With that after the immediate firing, they played with more heart for at least a game or two. But the Bills are rolling right now. I'm gonna be honest. The Bills are one of the hottest offenses in the league right now, and they just won a game handily against a really good Cowboys defense, and Josh Allen didn't have to do shit. So that's scary, and especially if James Cook's continuing to cook like that. And that rushing defense of the Chargers is absolutely abysmal. That whole defensive unit is abysmal. But I mean, this is a team that could come out there and play with some heart, and maybe make it interesting. But I think it will be. But I do think that the Bills pull away at the end and win by a pretty comfortable margin. But I think this game will be close for a little while, just because the Chargers go out there and play a little extra juice with that. So I expect the Bills to win, and I expect the Bengals to win for sure.
Let us know who you guys have in those two matchups, and for the rest of the slate, Trevor and I will give you our Sunday slate tomorrow, as well as the Monday picks as well, because we know the Chiefs will be playing on Monday at noon. So don't forget that, guys. The Chiefs will be playing Monday at noon. I know that sounds weird, but that's actually what is happening. But speaking of getting to you guys, Trevor, it's time for Speak It. Let's get to the people, man. What are people burning on today?
Let's get to you. First one off the top rope is our guy Shaggy Shane. What do you think about the possibility of the Chiefs playing on Monday without Moore, Tony, and McCole?
I love it. Well, McCole, I'd like to see him back, but I think there is an addition by subtraction by not playing guys that are hurting this offense. This offense already has enough struggles as it is. The last thing they need is guys dropping the ball, putting it into the defender's hands, and guys that are running bad routes, not catching the ball, and then fumbling it once they finally do catch the damn ball. I think that this offense does not need Sky Moore, does not need Kadarius Toney. In an ideal world, yes, they would, but these guys have proven what they are and what they're not. And they're far more of being a negative player than a positive player for this offense. So I would rather it stay the way it is right now. I think this could potentially be a blessing in disguise for the Chiefs having to play Richie James more, having to play Justin Ross more, having to play McCole Hardman more when he gets back. I think this could potentially be the best version of the Chiefs offense, at least compared to what we've seen for the first 14, 15 weeks.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree. I kind of want to see, other guys get involved. That's the thing here. Like we've kept all these receivers for a reason, and the guys that we don't like or haven't been producing have been out there the most, and that's frustrating. MVS is finally starting to get his snaps reduced. Obviously, it's been increasing or decreasing, if you will, for the past few weeks here, which is good to see. So I would like to see, Richie James, guys like that get more involved, get some work. Shaggy, your guy, Justin Ross, maybe get him some more work. And see if he can get involved in this offense. I think it's only upside for me with him. You know what I mean? I think that's just strictly an upside play here. Yep. Just go see what he can do, man. You think those Raiders CBs and DBs can go out there and go toe-to-toe with what Justin Ross is capable of with his height and speed abilities? I don't think so. I mean, why not? Go give him a shot, throw some 50-50 balls and see if you can go get them. Like you said, like it's back shoulder throws and then, some deep posts and things like that. Get him involved. I would like to see him get him involved to see what he can do. Put some more tape out there for other defenses to worry about heading into the postseason. That'd be cool to see. So, and I'm interested. My main thing here heading into this game, like you said, without obviously Sky Moore is out. Tony and McCole are question marks. McCole's probably going to play, but I am interested to see if Tony plays and for what reason, if he does or does not play. That's what I'm looking for the most as far as the wide receivers go. Brian Parrott. If we can't stop the run, can we still win, and how? Aside from the wide receivers having an anomalous game.
They can still win the game because they've done it multiple times this season, and even in games they've lost, when they got beat and gashed on the ground, they still had multiple opportunities to win. So I don't think, not to dismiss the importance of being able to stop the run game, really slow it down, but this team, even with their offensive lapses and offensive inadequacies, have still been one play away from winning games like that. I mean, you saw the way that the Lions were able to run the ball. You saw the way that the Packers were able to run the ball. You saw the way that even these Raiders,
the Bills too.
were able, the Bills, Raiders, all these games you can mention, they all had 115 to 145, 150 rushing
Broncos,
yards. Yeah. Yes. And all those games were winnable or were still won by the Chiefs.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's going to play a big – even if the Raiders were somehow to come into Kansas City and run for 130 yards this game, which I don't think is going to happen, even if that was to happen, I'd still think the Chiefs win this game by at least a touchdown.
Well, and our defense is still very good in short yardage and red zone.
Exactly.
We tend to hold teams when things get tight. And I think a little bit of bend don't break sometimes, and Spags is kind of known for that sometimes, to kind of let them – if they want to have a gash run here and there, so be it. As long as we're not letting the guy, the number ones go off. It's kind of a Belichickian kind of way, too. Belichick would kind of do that. He'd take away your number one, number two options sometimes and let you get a little, between the 20s, get your yardage. But as long as we're not letting you put up points, that's really all that matters, guys. So, yeah, I agree with you. I don't think the wide receivers have to have some anomalous game for us to win a game like that. We beat the Raiders literally the exact same way that we're discussing right now last time. So, Josh Jacobs went off and we still won by double digits. Brian Parrott. Isn't Embry responsible for the wide receiver's complete lack of discipline and basic receiving skills?
I'll answer that with a question. Did you hold the wide receiver coach to the same regard 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 15 years ago, 30 years ago?
Right.
No. No one ever did. It's an easy target now because it's two different things that are going on at once.
And he's young, and in that press conference didn't do him any justice.
Right, that's my whole point. There's two different things that are going on at once. He's awkward behind the mic. He's inexperienced. Well, three things, I guess. Awkward behind the mic, inexperienced, and this wide receiver room is trash.
If he was faceless like a lot of these other positional coaches, we would not even be mentioning
without Googling it, and I brought this up a couple of weeks ago, you guys should know the name.
Right.
And he's a prominent figure still in the league. But if without Googling it, name me the wide receivers coach before Embry for the Chiefs.
Right.
That's what I'm talking about. How many times were these guys position coaches brought up before? Do you guys know what the linebackers coach name is? Offensive line coach? I'm sure some of you guys do, but how many of you guys actually know these position coaches' names? And even if you can name them, how many of them do you actually think is directly responsible for how those positions are playing? Sure, those guys do play an important role. I'm not trying to diminish or downplay what these guys do, positively or negatively. What I'm saying is, if you tell me that it's Embry's fault this wide receiver room is playing the way it is, explain to me why. Because Eric Bieniemy is the guy you tell me that this offense misses. Eric Bieniemy wasn't the wide receivers coach.
And I think
in fact, Eric Bieniemy was the running backs coach before he became the OC.
Right.
So he wasn't even a wide receivers coach ever. So that's the point I'm trying to make, is that you guys say that it's EB they miss, it's Embry that's at fault, but how does that correlate? It doesn't really make sense at all either way you look at it. So, no, I don't think Connor Embry is at fault, and nor do I think it's him that would – let's say they were killing it. I wouldn't be sitting here crediting Connor Embry for the wide receiver room being great. It's who you got and who you don't. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, and it's the responsibility of the player, the employee, that is his job to catch the ball, to understand the mechanics and the fundamentals of the game that is that you've dedicated your life to.
Right.
It's stop blaming and pointing fingers. I don't like this whole – these receivers are dropping the balls, guys. Like, that has nothing to do with the receiver's coach. Like, he is the receiver's coach. He teaches them how to tactically run, routes and keeping his guys on pace with the offense and things like that. But catching the ball is on the receiver.
Right.
The ball's there. Catch it. There's not the coach can't go play the game for you. You know what I mean? Like, that's if you're an employee and you're slacking off on your job, you can't go pointing your finger at your manager, right? He's managing you, but you have to perform as an employee. You have to do your job.
Brett Veach and Andy Reid are far more to blame more than Connor Embry.
Of course.
Far more.
Yeah. They brought the bad employees in.
They signed, they developed, they distributed this wide receiver room, not Connor Embry.
Right. Brian Parrott once again. Shout out to The Spoken for being the model of consistency for YouTube channels. Y'all are always here for us when you want to think football, and come hell or high water, nothing stops The Spoken. Thumbs up.
Appreciate you, Brian, man. That's what we like to do, and that's what I love that people are remembering about the show. If you could take away anything from what we do here, is that you guys know that every single Saturday that rolls around, you see our pretty faces on your YouTube screen. You guys know that we are bringing a show every single week. I was proud Trevor and I did this. Eddie Ortiz was still with us at the time, where even during COVID, we were still doing shows. There was no sports whatsoever, but we knew that there was a responsibility that we put upon ourselves. It's not like you guys were begging us to do it, But we put it upon ourselves that we wanted to continue to give you guys product, even though there was really no product to talk about. We were theorizing on things. We were coming up with things to keep it interesting, to keep our minds and our hearts off of the stresses of an unknown world at that time. And we really appreciate Brian. We appreciate all you guys that stick around with us, because that's also why we keep doing this, because we know that you guys want us to keep doing this. You guys are a part of this now, and we love that. We appreciate you, man. Thank you for saying that.
Of course, man. Appreciate it. Merry Christmas. Shaggy Shane. Chiefs will be having their usual practice soon, usual Friday practice in parentheses, which will be 48 hours before kickoff. We should have a great idea who will be playing on Monday.
Yeah, 100%. I right now don't expect 𝚂𝙿𝙸𝚂𝙀 to play, Trevor.
Okay.
I think they're gonna really just try to give a golden opportunity to these other guys. I know I don't want to repeat myself, but I think at this point, 𝚂𝙸𝙀𝙀, putting him back out there on the field right now is a bad idea. It is. I think it's a bad idea. That's
Andy Reid's way, though. You know that's Andy Reid's way, man.
How many more times, though? Like I said,
he doesn't like guys to sit he doesn't like guys to sit and stew in their inadequacies.
But what just happened with Sky Moore?
Yeah.
Like, I know people are saying Lancey was injured. Guys, the timing could not have been more impeccable. Like, Justin Ross and McCole Hardman are now available, and all of a sudden Sky Moore goes to the IR.
Sure.
Come on. I think they know what they have in these guys. That it's not good enough. And if MVS wasn't making such a high dollar amount, it'd be the same situation with him.
I believe McKinnon is questionable as well, and I think if McKinnon doesn't play, I think 𝚂𝙸𝙀𝙀 does play, because I think he's one of those guys that they like to give those running plays to sometimes.
Well, then let's hope McKinnon plays.
I mean, shit, yeah. I mean, I love my guy 𝚂𝙸𝙀𝙀, man. I still believe in him, but McKinnon is the far superior player, far more productive player. It's not even a question throughout his career, especially his career here with the Chiefs. I mean, we know what that guy is capable of. He will produce points for us, not the other team. So, yes, I mean, I kind of hope 𝚂𝙸𝙀𝙀 plays, but at the same time, I get it, dude. If they want to just sit his ass down for a game, or the rest of the season, I don't know. Who knows, man? I believe in the talent, but if he's not a Chief next year, if he's not a Chief moving forward, I understand both sides of it, man. You know what I mean? It's a dog-eat-dog game, man. So if you're messing up that much and you're going to get in the doghouse of Patrick Mahomes, good luck, buddy. It's just not going to last for you. Chiefer 65 Toss Power Trap on YouTube. With Sky on IR and hopefully Tony with limited snaps, Wanya at left tackle, I feel our problems could be minimized. I feel a breakout game coming. A breakout for who? I'm not sure. He just says that breakout coming. I'm not sure. Offensively for the Chiefs offense or what?
Well, because of the fact he named multiple positions, I'm assuming he's talking about the offense as a whole.
Sure.
Which I don't necessarily disagree with.
Yeah, it could be Richie James.
I'm not expecting the offense to all of a sudden be fixed. Like I stand by what I've said.
Yeah, that's not happening. We don't have a savior. There's no savior this year.
Yes, this offense is what it is. But could it be improved to the point where you know that you can rely on one more guy? Yeah. I do think that Richie James could become a guy
Pacheco
that you can
back.
rely on. Yes,
yeah.
That's also a thing.
Yeah.
I do think that Justin Ross has skill. I do remember McCole Hardman playing a role in this offense and special teams on Super Bowl drives.
Yep.
So, yes, I do think there is potential here. Do I think this offense is going to click and then become the 2018 Chiefs? No. That team's not there right now. They got to go and improve that in this offseason. But do I think that they could have more reliable assets out there to where Patrick Mahomes can start playing better football, not from an individual standpoint, but just from an offensive standpoint as a team? Yes, I do believe that. Those guys got to go prove themselves. But the only way they're going to be able to do that is if you take away the guys that are causing inflammation and you bring the guys out here that can alleviate some of the stress. That's the only way it's going to happen. You keep playing 𝚂𝙸𝙀𝙀, you keep playing MVS and Sky Moore and these guys that are just taking up snaps and absorbing that and keeping your offense down where you're playing with one hand. Yeah, your offense is going to continue to struggle the same way. You got to give your offense a better opportunity. And I think Patrick Mahomes now, like I said 3 times now, him showing his frustration, the Chiefs have to honor and respect their quarterback and say, we need to start setting him up for better success. Not just in this offseason when Brett Veach knows he's going to have to overcorrect, but right now. Give him some of these other guys. Y'all told me this room was 7 deep. Well, 2 of these guys are now unplayable. 3 of them actually are. There's still 4 other guys. Play those guys. See what happens.
Roger that. Next question, Sapphire Madron on YouTube. Some fans still think the team should have kept Emir Smith-Marset. Do you think he could have helped? This is a dead horse here.
Let me say this, due respect to the player. I liked what I saw from training camp.
Yeah, we got something for him.
But Trevor, what did you just get done saying, though? Andy Reid sticks with the guys.
Yeah.
Clearly, Andy didn't believe in Amir. He didn't think he was a guy. So even if he'd have made the team, I think he'd be in the same situation that Justin Ross or Richie James are in, where it's week 16 and you're thinking, hey, maybe we'll give them an opportunity.
Yeah.
I don't think he'd have played much this season. So I don't think it really matters. I think it's a non-starter, not to dismiss the question. It's a fair question. I understand why you ask it because I've asked it myself, but I've come to the same conclusion every single time I've asked that question.
A bit of practice
I look at who's led the team in targets, receptions, snaps, everything. It was Sky Moore and MVS for over half the season. And when Andy Reid finally came to the conclusion those guys suck sack, all of a sudden you started seeing Rashee Rice getting snaps more. You started Kadarius Toney started getting more snaps, and then he started sucking the same sack, and all of a sudden he got taken out. And then Rashee Rice all of a sudden has been elevated to that guy. It's been by necessity. I think the only way a guy like Amir, Justin Ross, Richie James, any of those guys start to become more of a prominent part of the offense is when these other guys have proven they can't be. Therefore, you're going to get it by default. That's the only way I'd ever see him play in this offense. That's why I don't think that we'd see much impact from him this season if he stayed.
Yeah, he's not here anymore. So,
right.
Next question from Sapphire as well. Do you see Sky Moore still on the team next season? Will they just keep developing him because he is a high draft pick?
I don't think, guys, at this time right now, I don't believe that Sky Moore's making this team next season. He's not good. This sucks to say, and I was the same guy. I'll own all my receipts. I was high on Sky Moore when I first saw him at training camp the first season. I was like, this kid's going to be special. Yeah. I said it on this show. I said, this dude, I looked at Trevor and Eddie and I said, this dude's going to be special. Have you ever seen special from Sky Moore once? No. This man's made like 2 plays his entire NFL career.
Get some fun highlights at camp.
Sure.
Yeah.
But in games that fucking matter, have you seen one thing from Sky Moore like, oh shit, here he comes. Oh damn. Like we saw Rashee Rice, like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Made that big play, ironically, against the Raiders a few weeks ago. Oh damn, that's it. That's what they saw in this dude. What have you seen from Sky Moore, guys? A 1-yard touchdown on a perfectly schemed play? Like, come on. This dude... you would have to convince me as to why this guy needs to make the team because, again, I fully anticipate Brett Veach is going to overcorrect. And when Brett Veach overcorrects, he usually crushes ass. So I'm expecting this wide receiver room to be fucking amazing next season. I'm not playing when I say that. I think that Patrick Mahomes is going to have one of the better wide receiver rooms in the league next season. And I'm not being hyperbolic here. I think he's going to have a plethora of weapons. I think Brett Veach is going to make sure that they change everything as much as they can. Where would Sky Moore fit in that? If let's say they go and get Trevor like a Mike Evans or a T. Higgins, and then you have Rashee Rice at wide receiver too, and then you have Richie James or a guy that you keep around for another year. Where does Sky Moore fit in that? Because if he's your wide receiver 5, what's the point of having him? He's a non-factor.
He can't return kicks.
Yeah, he's a non-factor. So go and get another guy in the draft. Go and sign an older veteran guy that can come in here and just fill in like a Robert Woods, a 33-year-old guy that can just run routes. And go
get Randall Cobb.
Go get Kabe.
Yeah.
Go get just a veteran. Get a couple veterans to solidify this room. Rashee continues to be the badass that he's become. Then all of a sudden you have 3 dudes right there with Travis Kelce still around. He'll be back next season. Noah Gray still under contract. Like all of a sudden you have 5-6 legitimate weapons. Sky Moore doesn't fit that equation. So I'm just saying, guys, he's not going to be. I'm hoping, to be honest with you, I know I'm such a cutthroat asshole here, but I'm hoping, guys, that Sky Moore, the Chiefs move off of him because I just think he's dead weight at this point. I know our guys are all chiefed up, and I love my Williams brothers, man. They're my boys. Trevor and I love them to death. They're our guys, and now they believe in Sky. I would ask them the same question just like I asked them on their show a few weeks ago, why should I believe in him? Like, give me the reasons why I should. Like, I'm not sitting here trying to just be negative because, again, I was a guy that believed in him coming into the NFL. I have now turned 180 on the dude, and it's because of the lack of production, lack of trust. So you're going to have to convince me why I need to get back on the train of Sky Moore. And I don't see it. I don't think the Chiefs see it, and I think they're going to part ways with him.
Yeah, I mean, as of right now, I believe he will be here next year. That's just where I'm at right now. That vibe could definitely change depending on how he returns and if he does have any success in the postseason and when he does return. If he does, I'm not even sure if he does return in the postseason. But yeah, man, I don't know. Last we heard was Andy Reid is a big fan of him. Obviously, he wants to see the best of the kid. But I mean, the kid's been on the field a shit ton this year and has produced nothing. So that's pretty damning, honestly, for himself. So I'd rather move on from him this offseason, but I have a feeling the Chiefs are going to bring him back. Next question from Brian Parrott. Do y'all expect our pass rush to dominate last time around? Theirs beat ours.
I do believe that the pass rush will be good today or on Monday. I do expect that.
Did the Raiders pass rush really?
No, it was 1-1 sacks. I think they got some pressure on Patrick here and there, but Patrick was dicing that defense
Yeah, Max
up.
Crosby didn't really do shit.
I will say, yeah, I will.
He
was
was
also banged up.
Yeah.
But what I will say is, I do think the Chiefs are going to play well on defense as a whole. But to Brian's point, we have been seeing Trevor, Juwan Taylor, and Donovan Smith mostly, but now Wanye's kind of solidified it.
Yeah.
The tackles have been giving up pressure. I haven't seen much of a difference from last year to this year. I really haven't. It hasn't been that much better.
I think Wanye has been pretty good.
I'm saying, but he's only been playing for a couple of weeks.
Sure.
For the majority of the season, the tackles have been giving up pressures.
Yeah.
I do think Wanye has solidified that.
Yeah.
I think Wanye is good.
Yeah.
We'll see. Well, he'll have growing pains because he's so young. He's a rookie,
Well,
but I do like him.
Yeah.
I think that's starting to turn into a hell of a pick. If you can get a starting left tackle in the 3rd round, dude, that's what Brett Veach got. Dude, that's gonna be a valued pick.
Well, especially him having to come in a mid game during an injury and kind of just take that job and never look back. And his name isn't mentioned a lot.
And
that's good.
I know this sounds nuts, and trust me, guys, I agree. But I'm just painting the scenario. Do you guys know how Will Shields got his start?
Right.
He came in for an injury.
This
and
happens,
never
man.
looked back.
Yeah.
It happens. Nobody thought, because I think Will Shields, ironically, was a 3rd-round pick. And he became one of the greatest guards who ever played football. So I'm not saying Wanye is going to become the next, Jonathan Ogden or Willie Roaf.
That'd be great.
But if he does, holy shit. I'm just saying, I think that pick's starting to look good already. But I am worried about Juwan Taylor, and I think that's obviously going to be where Max Crosby is going to be lining up a lot. So I will be looking forward to that matchup, and I appreciate Brian bringing that up because that's actually a really good point. I think Max Crosby is going to go out there and do everything he can to disrupt this game because at this point, the Raiders are trying to play spoiler. They don't have a chance in the playoffs.
And Max Crosby, if any game, gets up for these ones, man.
Yeah.
If
the Raiders know they can come in here and upset the Chiefs and keep them from getting the 1 seed completely, oh, dude, they would love that. That'd be their Super Bowl.
We've been letting teams hang around and/or win in Arrowhead a little too much lately, so that's something we need to change. Brian Parrott, once again, do you see our tackles blowing this game on penalties and bad footwork resulting in sacks? Kind of leading into from where the last question ended. I think this offensive line holds their own because I think we know and they should get up for this Max Crosby. I mean, like you said, we allowed 1 sack last time we seen these guys. Max Crosby was a little banged up. He's going to be healthier this game, so they're going to have their hands full. That defensive line has some dogs, and they got some good defensive, or they got some good, like Spillane is a absolute dog out there, too. He's having a really good year.
He's also a bitch.
Yeah, true. I get it, but he's one of those nasty players, man. That's just he's going to go put it on you. He's an ex-Steeler. He has that mentality, that dirty, grimy kind of player. He's been solid this year for them.
I wanted Justin Watson to deck his
I know,
ass.
man. It was dirty as hell, and I don't understand how there wasn't a flag thrown on that play either way.
Dirty shit.
But they do have some dogs out there, and they're going to want to get up for this game for sure. So the offensive line, I believe, will be ready and prepared, and I think they'll hold their own. I don't know what you think of.
Well, no, I mean, look, guys, if you guys watch that game again, there's one very notable thing about the Raiders. They didn't have a penalty. They had 0 penalties. Chiefs only had 4. That's not a bunch.
Yeah.
But that's 4 more than what the Raiders had. If the Chiefs want to go out there and stub their toe a little bit, sure, this could get really interesting really quick. I don't think that's going to happen because I am putting my faith that Andy Reid's going to negate the troublemakers.
I think quick strikes and some good running is going to be a part of this game.
I do think that the troublemakers, which are Kadarius Toney, MVS, and Sky Moore, are going to be off the field a lot. If Kadarius Toney does play, Trevor, I don't think he's going to play more than 10, 15 snaps at most. MVS, every single week, his snaps are going down dramatically.
That's been Kadarius Toney all year.
What did MVS play last week? 22 snaps? That's your number 1 receiver as far as pay is concerned. He played 22 snaps.
Right, yeah.
So if you take away the troublemakers, I think the troubles go away. And I do think that's you're gonna see in this offense this week. If Pacheco's healthy, McKinnon or Clyde plays, you have Travis Kelce, Noah Gray, along with the other unproven but hopeful wide receivers around Rashee. All of a sudden, this offense looks a little bit more hopeful, man. So no, I'm not expecting it this week. But if it does end up happening, I think along with Brian and everybody else, I don't think we're gonna sit here and go, oh my God, they're struggling. They're turning the ball over. They're getting penalties. No, we're not going to be sitting here freaking out about it because this has been more of the same all season. I just think that this week they do clean some shit up because they are, like I say, trimming that fat and getting some of the problems out of the equation to try to set Patrick up for more success. Because Patrick's putting the ball in the money. He's got to catch the damn ball and stay on sides.
Absolutely. Chiefer 65 TPT. What do you think the chances are that we tag Snead?
Not well. I love L'Jarius Sneed. I know I say this all the time, but I mean it every single time. L'Jarius Sneed is one of the single most important pieces on this team, not just this defense. L'Jarius Sneed I think he's the best cover corner in the entire NFL. I really do.
I mean, he's been an all-pro this year.
So let me specify what I'm saying, Trevor. I don't think the Chiefs tag him with the intention of keeping him. I don't think they're going to spend money on corner. I don't think you're not, unless it's Trent McDuffie, a guy they went and got in the first round, traded up for.
Yeah, paying corners in this league is just not a.
They clearly valued McDuffie, and they did that while L'Jarius was on this team. They've drafted 5 corners in the last 2 drafts with L'Jarius Sneed playing great football. That tells me they're not looking to keep him around for long term, which tells me that if they were to tag L'Jarius, they're going to trade L'Jarius, and he will have a trade market. Because the dude's only 26, 27 years old, and he, in my opinion, right now, is the best cover corner in the entire NFL. He has shut dudes down. One great after the next. Shut him down. And I'm expecting him to have another great game against Devontae Adams this week if they keep him on him, like they have been keeping him on wide receiver ones all season. So I think this is his final season with the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs will either get a comp pick out of him or they will get a trade market out of him if they do tag him. But I don't think he plays for the Chiefs in 2024. I just don't see it because of how much they've invested draft-wise in at that position, and Trent McDuffie being a guy I do think they view as a long-term answer, a guy they would pay long-term money to because they went and got him in the first round. They were aggressive and made sure they got him before the Bills or anybody else.
Gotcha. Let's see. So I'm going back to some of these live comments because those were all the ones I favorited. Let's see. Michael, what is this? Michael Maldonado. Sorry, man, that is a tongue twister for me.
What's wrong with Maldonado? Come on, man. Maldonado.
Yeah, there we go. I don't know if he's Italian, but okay.
I'm with it. Get him some cutlets.
Do you guys also think in these 3 games for Justin Ross, we kind of touched on this a little bit, but I'll give him his shine here. Do you guys also think in these next 3 games for Justin Ross is also an experiment for him for a roster spot next season?
Well, I mean, what's your thought on it? Because I kind of went extensive on mine where I think that he needs to be a guy they start to actually implement in the offense, not just go out there and be a decoy, but actually be an implemented piece. What do you think?
I mean, 100%. I mean, he's here for a reason. We held on to him, through this off-field shit for a reason, right? This is a guy that we have faith in, not faith, but the guy we have hopes in to become something, and like I said, he's strictly an upside guy, upside play for the Chiefs. He's a guy you can easily cut, and he can easily pop off and become a star for this team. You know what I mean? There's a lot of it's a very high ceiling play here. So I 100% believe he should be given some opportunities here to see what he can do down the stretch to become a piece for the postseason, let alone next season. Something we're looking for some extra juice this season heading into the postseason. You know what I mean? So having that extra guy that could become something in this offense for sure. I think he's definitely playing for not only maybe being a Chief next season, but being something for another team next year as well. So, yeah, absolutely, man.
Good question, Maldonado.
Appreciate it, man.
Keep the questions coming, eh? Keep the questions coming. And go get the gabagool while you got it.
Next question from my guy, Brent. What makes y'all so confident that Veach can fix this wide receiver room in one offseason? I know that he's done that with other positions, but he's shown that he consistently misses on wide receivers besides Rasheed.
But you just said it yourself right there.
Yeah.
You've seen him do it at other positions, even when he's missed at other positions.
Right.
We've seen him miss and whiff at defensive line. But now we see George Karlaftis and what he's becoming. We see the other pieces around him. He went and got Charles Minute, who, he hasn't been great this season, but we like the signing, and we like the depth that he's brought. He got Chris Jones to sign a 1-year deal. That's credit to Brett Veach for making that happen. This off season didn't go as planned. But what I'm basically saying is this defensive line that he has whiffed at his first freaking pick of his career as the Chiefs GM was an absolute whiff with Breeland Speaks. But he's been able to redeem that with other times. I agree with you 100% on the wide receiver room. He's whiffed several times over. But Rashee Rice isn't a hit. Rashee Rice is 100% a hit. And I think that kind of gives Brett Veach a little bit of saving grace. And I'm not trying to sit here and make a case for Brett. I'm just trying to look at it from 33,000 feet, where he did land one guy. We have seen him they stood by Tyreek Hill through the whole ugly process that happened 4 years ago. Stuck by him, gave him an extension. He helped them win another Super Bowl. Things like that happens, guys. And I think that Brett Veach when he overcorrects, He usually does it right because that offensive line wasn't his fault that all those guys got hurt in 2020. But in 2021, he went out there and aggressively changed that offensive line. And since then, the Chiefs have had an overall very good offensive line. They've had some struggles here and there. But as I recall, they went up against an historic pass rush in the Philadelphia Eagles and gave up 0 sacks. And Patrick Mahomes had one damn leg. So I do want to give Brett Veach a chance here. I'm not sitting here saying this dude's doomed. Fire this guy, get another GM. I'm not there, obviously, yet, not even anywhere close to that. But he has had his problems. He has showed his mortality at the wide receiver position. But because of the fact that I know that he knows he's going to have to overcorrect and spend money at that position, I like his chances of going out there and landing. Because it isn't like you have to go and get another Tyreek Hill. Patrick Mahomes proved all he needs is a guy that's at a Juju Smith-Schuster tier. If you just give him a guy like that knows the soft spots of defensive zones, that can beat man press, that has reliable hands, he can get you to the Super Bowl. He doesn't have to have a Tyreek Hill. He doesn't have to have a top-tier wide receiver. Would it be great? Hell yeah. Makes things that much easier. But Patrick Mahomes is so damn great, if you just give him reliable assets, they're going to win, and they're going to win a lot, and they're going to get to more Super Bowls. That's why we talk about this wide receiver room being so bad. Is because of the fact that I warned you guys for so long, this wide receiver room is unproven, and that makes me uncomfortable. But I even myself said, you know what? I'm willing to be proven wrong. If Kadarius Toney can stay healthy, I think he can put up numbers. I was wrong about that. That guy's a net negative. He's even worse than I was expecting. So that's a big knock on Brett Veach. So Brett Veach knows the pressure cooker's on because you only get so many chances at this with Patrick Mahomes being who he is that he's going to have to do this and do this right this time around and learn from his mistakes. No one's perfect, but what would make it worse that Brett Veach sat on his hands for an additional offseason. That's when we'll start talking about whether he's the right man for the job. I'm not anticipating that being the conversation we'll be having in April and May. I'm expecting that we're going to be sitting here talking about a team that went and got 2 to 3 pieces in that wide receiver room, and all of a sudden it's fixed and it's looking and it's humming and it's doing the right thing. And we're partying like it's 2018 again.
Agreed. Next question from my guy James T. Kirk. Did you guys happen to watch Undisputed? That's
an automatic no.
Nope. Michael Irving, for whatever reason, thinks without Hill, Mahomes is done winning Super Bowls. Can someone muzzle this man, please? P.S. Hardly watched Undisputed. Well, you should turn that hardly into never.
What just happened last year?
Right. We've done it already. That's in the books.
Irvin's got to lay off that coke, man. He's really got to lay off of it.
That show is still going somehow.
I mean, all respect to the what they called him, the playmaker. Was that his nickname in football? The playmaker? Yeah, but dude, there was a lot of plays being made without Tyreek Hill last season. They got the Chiefs another Super Bowl without Tyreek Hill. I don't even know what to say to that.
Yeah. Thanks for that though. No, I do not watch Undisputed, so I did not hear
it's
that.
A terrible show.
It did not make it my way. Next question from our guy James T. Kirk. Lance, your Facebook page about your Facebook post, I think you meant to say, was about Kadarius was spot on. But it's no secret that if Toney is on, the Chiefs need his spark. Will they miss that?
I don't think they're going to miss it because when has that spark been there? It'd be one thing, guys. If every 2 to 3 to 4 games, Kadarius Toney has like a 55-yard touchdown where he just shakes 3 defenders, does a spinning move and has like this legendary play that we're all watching 5 years from now. He hasn't. The only play we go back to is a punt return that wasn't even a touchdown. And the Chiefs had the lead, by the way, when he did it. It was a great play. I'm not knocking it. But my point is, the irony of Kadarius Toney's Chiefs career is that he was brought here to be a star in the offense. And the only thing we could really point to that was like a great play from him was a punt return. That's been my whole knock. He wasn't brought here to be special teams guy. He wasn't brought here to be Dante Hall. He was here to be a difference maker with Patrick Mahomes. And he's not. And he never has been. So I understand what you're trying to say about, are they going to miss the spark? Yeah, but they've never had it. So how can you miss what you never had? That's the whole point. In an ideal world and thinking and fantasizing about it, like, damn, you imagine what this offense would be like if his spark was out there? Yeah, I do, and it would be awesome. It'd be fun. Yeah. I would love to see Kadarius Toney being out there kicking ass. He doesn't. He hasn't. So this offense has to be true to themselves and say, this guy isn't what we thought he is. We have to move forward and do better. Otherwise, we're going to lose 2 to 3 games earlier than we should. and not get a chance of winning a Super Bowl with Patrick Mahomes at the peak of his powers. That's unacceptable. And you can't let that guy who's already cost you 2 games, almost 3 in this Patriots game, to be the guy that causes you a chance of building a dynasty. You just can't have it.
Trust me, man. I love Kadarius Toney. I'm one of the few that still does. And I want him to become a star in this offense. I want him to become a Debo-esque kind of player because he has a similar skill set to Debo. But Kadarius Toney's got to want it for himself, though. Kadarius Toney's got to get his shit together. He's got to learn how to catch the damn ball. And when he can do that at a consistent level, I believe he can be an absolute star in this offense. I think his skill set and his athleticism and his gifts to make people miss and his agility and things like that can definitely translate into this offense at a very high level. It's just he is nothing but potential right now. It's just potential. What he could potentially be? He's a dream right now, possibly what he could be. But right now we're all awake. This is not the dream world. This is not La La Land. This is reality, and right now he's been contributing to the opposition more than he has his own team. So that's a massive problem. I still support him in what he could possibly become as potential-wise, but right now it's not working. And
I love Kadarius Toney's.
There's not a spark right now.
I love Kadarius Toney's giving spirit. He's trying to give a football to the defense. I think that's a very sweet thing to do, but not at the cost of the Chiefs. I'm sick of him. If you want to be a giver, go out there and do that outside of football. Don't do that in the games. I don't like that.
Yeah.
That's when I don't like the guys to be givers.
That's fair, man. That's fair. Next question is from our guy, James T. Kirk. Hey, a basketball question.
Sweet.
John Morant is back. So is his entourage. Morant's father seems like dead weight. Sad to say. Do you agree?
Stay tuned.
Okay, well, we'll that's a little teaser question. Thank you there, James T. Kirk. Appreciate you. Last question from our guy, Michael Maldonado. I'm not sure if it's Spanish or Italian. I'm not
very jacked up. I do that. But Maldonado. Maldonado.
Another question is next off season also. Does next season also predict if Kelce retires or not? If Veach gets weapons for Mahomes, but also help for Kelce to finish his career as a Chief?
Well, let me put it like this. I think this season has sped up the process of Kelce retiring because of the fact that it's taken a lot out of him because he's the only true proven commodity for the majority of the season. Rashi obviously coming about, but we know, like I said, he's a rookie and it's taken him 8-9 weeks to really gain that traction. I think this season moved that a little bit closer. But I think if and when Brett Veach goes and gets adequate pieces to add to the equation, I think that's actually going to incentivize Kelce to stick around.
Yeah.
Because what that's going to do is take all that pressure off Travis. I think in an ideal world, Travis wants to continue to be at the top of his game, obviously. But I think he knows deep down, I probably have one great season of football left in me. And if I want to play into my deep 30s, I'm going to end up becoming more of a role type of player. Because and I bring it up all the time, but the reason why Tony Gonzalez was able to play 17 seasons in this league and play at a healthy level was because of the fact he went to an Atlanta team that had a plethora of weapons. They had not one but 2 wide receiver ones in Roddy White and Julio Jones. They had Michael Turner out of the backfield. That opened up everything for Tony Gonzalez to have 850 and 9 touchdown seasons. I think that's what I'm not one of those people that believes that Travis Kelce's retiring in the next 2 years. I think Travis plays for another 3 or 4 seasons. I do. I don't think the whole Taylor Swift thing is going to deter that because I think they actually enjoy both being in the spotlight. And who wouldn't be? Because they're killing it in life right now. You think Taylor's going to give up music because her and Travis get married or something like that? No. She ain't going to quit her career. Why does he need to? And especially when he's
the
still
catch
great.
anyways.
Yeah, well, catching Kelce's for a reason. But I'm saying, he is still great at what he does. It isn't like he's out there hobbling around looking like Jason Witten with the Raiders. He still looks great. It's just that there's not a lot around him, so he gets exposed a little bit more because he's getting double, triple teamed. And how many guys look great when you're getting double, triple teamed on the field? It doesn't happen. So I think what happens is that Brett Veach goes and gets 2-3 weapons, and all of a sudden it's that much easier for Travis because no matter who ends up in here, whether it's Mike Evans, T. Higgins, any of those guys, let's name the best receiver you think realistically the Chiefs can get. You know who's still the number 1 option going into 2024 for Patrick Mahomes? Travis Kelce. Yeah. He's still the guy. And I think he will be for at least one more season. But if he plays in 2025, 2026, and maybe even in 2027 at 37, 38 years old, I still think he'd be the second or third option in this offense to still get 750, 800 yards, 6, 7, 8 touchdowns. Might even become more of a prolific red zone target to where all of a sudden instead of catching 1,200 yards and 7, 8 touchdowns, it's 750 yards, 800 yards, but 11, 12, 13 touchdowns because he's getting more red zone targets. His usage rate isn't as high in the middle of the field; it's more in the red zone. That's what I think is going to be happening.
All I'm going to say is this: if Kelsey manages to find a way to get another 1,000-yard season here, and Rashee Rice gets to a 1,000-yard season, and the Chiefs obviously win this division and possibly maybe get the 1 seed or the 2 seed, Patrick Mahomes is the MVP. He's the MVP. He's the MVP of the league.
Thank you.
I don't know what else to tell
Trevor,
you guys.
Full disclosure. I was going to bring that up on the show
God
today.
damn it! My bad.
No. I'm not. I didn't bring it up on the show. I was saying I was going to start the show off with that, but I was like, you know what?
If he has 2,000-yard receivers in this season,
I've already tweeted it out.
That's crazy.
I've already put it on Facebook. People have seen it already, so I can bring it up whenever the hell I want to. Maybe even next week. Stay tuned. But I do believe Patrick Mahomes is the MVP. I think he already is, Trevor. He leads the league in total yards.
I agree with you.
He's only 4 touchdowns behind the league leader.
I agree with you, man.
With the worst wide receiver room in the league.
He could end the season with the most. I mean, definitely. If he pops off, which I don't think he's going to need to.
Would it be crazy? He has 4 touchdowns against the Raiders.
No.
And then you're looking
We've
at
seen
a guy,
Travis Kelce have 4 by himself.
Yeah, you're looking at a guy, Trevor. I know we're veering off here, but hear me out.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes is going to end the season with 4,500 yards. That's going to happen, right? So he's going to have 4,500 yards, 30-plus touchdowns, his career high in completion percentage, with the worst wide receiver room in the league with a 34-year-old tight end.
Yep.
And like you said, could still get the 1 seed. At worst, probably the 2 seed.
Easily wins the division.
Wins the division by 2-3 games.
Right.
How is that not the MVP? We're sitting here talking about Brock Purdy, who's good.
Yeah.
But Brock Purdy's not even the MVP of his own team.
I think Patrick's like the fourth favorite now.
It's the 5th.
That's crazy.
Josh Allen's ahead of him.
That's crazy.
Who's not even in the playoffs.
That's fucking
Who's
crazy.
leading the league in turnovers.
Yeah. He's hot right now, though. He's so hot right now.
Dude, yeah, that Hansel's so hot right now. Dude, this is what I'm talking about. People are getting the Mahomes fatigue so badly that they're looking at his season as a negative. This man's one of the 4 best quarterbacks in the league right now statistically. I broke it down. I can show you guys the post. I'll probably bring it up next week or whenever we talk about this again. But I do believe, guys, I don't think Patrick's gonna win the MVP.
Yeah.
I think there's too many other stories.
It's like Andy Reid winning Coach of the Year.
But what pisses me off is guys like Brock Purdy's going to finish ahead of him when Brock is not even the MVP of his own team.
Right. No.
He's not even the MVP of his own backfield.
Right.
And he's going to probably win MVP unless the Niners lose some horrible game down the stretch these next 3 weeks. I don't think they're going to. I think
they could lose to the
Ravens.
They could lose to the Ravens. We do have some breaking news on the show.
Okay.
Michael Maladano is Mexican, by the way.
Oh, okay. I am so sorry, my dude. The intentions were good. I promise they were innocent. Your last name's badass regardless.
Maldonado.
We celebrate. So Viva Mexico, man. We appreciate you being on the
Maldonado.
show, dude. That's awesome. Michael Maldonado. Is it Maldonado or Maldonado?
Maldonado.
Maldonado. I love that last name, bro. I will get that down. Please keep chiming in, bro, because you bring up great questions. We love having you as a part of the show, bro. We appreciate you.
Yeah, excuse our very European ways
We're
here.
doing this shit, man. What a jackass.
Shout out to Michael, man. Appreciate you.
Yeah,
Thank you for chiming in today, man. Appreciate you. That's it though for the chat, man.
Awesome. You guys are great, man. Especially Michael, our Mexican pal, dude, our Mexican brother. We appreciate you, man. We're celebrating you today, and we're celebrating everybody. It sucked not having John Harrison
Navidad,
with us.
my guy.
Yes, thank you. Feliz Navidad. We appreciate you having here. Merry Christmas to you, brother, and everybody out there. Merry Christmas to everybody that celebrates, especially our guy John. We appreciate him not being it sucks not having him, but our guy John Harrison's been one of the biggest contributors to our show for well over a year now, and my heart goes out to him. If you didn't hear it at the beginning of the show, I'll say it again. Our guy John Harrison lost his dog. They had to put him down due to cancer. Really rough situation. And if anybody out there has been a dog owner, you know that dogs end up owning us and owning our hearts in particular, man. They become
Facts.
a large part of your family. Trevor and I grew up with dogs, and every single time one of them passed or ran away or whatever, it devastated us. So I know exactly how John feels right now. And I'm so sorry, brother. We're here for you, and we just wanted to put that out there again. So if you guys know John or if you guys know how to contact John on Facebook, hit him up, let him know that you're supporting him. Just send him anything you guys can, because I know personally when Trevor and I lost our last dog we had over 10 years ago, his name was Broseph. He was a little pug, a little chubby fuck. When he got hit by a car and I had to bury him, man, that was one of the most depressing times of my life. And when friends hit me up and things like that, it made me feel a lot better. So I know that John would probably appreciate that as well. And so I'm going to hit him up after the show just to check on him and see how he's going. But again, thank you guys for being in the chat. Thank you guys for bringing up some great questions and some great topics. It always fuels our fire here to continue to talk these things. And we quite frankly wouldn't have a show without you guys. So thank you for that. Trevor, we have one more order of business to get to. What is it called? Hold this L. Each and every episode, we finish off every single episode with a series of L's in the world of sports. Whether those L's are friendly or not so friendly L's in the world of sports, we promise you who was ever holding those L's in the world of sports deserve those L's in the world of sports. Trevor Twidwell, who's holding the L for you this week?
So I'm going to keep this within the division. This is going to go to Brandon Staley. I mean, how could it not? I mean, we didn't really get to discuss, what happened this past week, with the Raiders and the Chargers game, how that all went down. I know we discussed it briefly about how the Raiders had their franchise record and points. But there is some poetry to that as well. When, just the previous season when the Raiders and the Chargers both could have made the playoffs, and Staley decided to try to go for the win. I just want to read that. There's that meme. It says, "Never forget when the Raiders were going to settle for a tie to get the Chargers and the Raiders both in the playoffs, but Brandon Staley took a timeout in overtime, and the Raiders went on to kick a game-winning field goal to knock the Chargers out instead." That was a couple seasons ago, right? Yeah. So just the fact that kind of came full circle now on him, and the Raiders went out there and absolutely just put it on him to end his career is hilarious to me.
I've never thought about that.
Yeah. I seen that. I was like, I got to bring that up. That's so good. The full circle of that coming around was hilarious. So yeah, man. The fact that the guy lasted as long as he did, honestly, is surprising. I was hoping they would still hold on to him after this debacle and after this season has been such a letdown.
I'm a big fan.
Yeah. I mean, keep him around. I'd rather not see them upgrade at head coach. That's not what I want to see. But yeah, man, that happening is obviously it's another victim. In the AFC West. You play in the division of Patrick Mahomes. It is what it is. So for that. I got another one coming up though. I do have. I got to save space for dessert. You know what I mean? For a guy named 𝚂𝙿𝙾𝙺𝙺, who's a sweet individual. I'm not going to give him too much airtime on this, but I think those of you who know, the guy is an absolute joke. Anybody who honestly, and I know people personally that like this guy, and that I respect these people's opinions on the sport and on the art that is mixed martial arts. Jiu-jitsu, boxing, wrestling, whatever, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, black belts, all that. Nonetheless, I don't respect this man in any way. I don't respect him as a fighter, even to the degree some people do. I don't think he's even that great of a fighter. I think he's very overrated. I think he's only rated and given these opportunities because of his draw. His draw is a shtick. His draw is a caricature of something he is not. Everyone who knows him has absolutely, disowned him. For who he is and what he's done. This guy talked the most amount of shit, went after someone's dead father, and tried to shit on the name of their dead father when they are not even alive to defend themselves. About as low as you can go. Heading into this fight with Leon Edwards, and then proceeded to get his ass kicked for 5 entire rounds after talking all that shit, and literally did nothing, had no offense. Did nothing. I think he had a takedown. Had some control time. But outside of that, there was nothing. And then he proceeded to bash the fans that were booing him, calling everyone broke. It's just we're watching the downfall of a grown man in front of the world, and I don't feel sorry for those who support this guy. This guy's trash in my mind, bro. Like, it is what it is. But the fact that I shouldn't even have to give this dude an L because it's very obvious he's giving himself L's consistently, making his rounds on social media and other podcasts after taking a massive L in front of everyone, trying to defend and double down his shitting on a man's dead father. Classless. I have no respect for people like that, in my personal opinion. So for that, Coach Staley and 𝚂𝙿𝙾𝙺, give me a duet, do me a solid favor, and hold this L.
Told our guy James T. Kirk to stay tuned for a reason. Surprisingly enough, I'm actually giving a W right now. Trevor, go ahead and roll that beautiful bean footage.
Roll the footage.
Memphis, no timeouts left. Into the backcourt it goes. Morant's going to get ahead of Steve with a chance to win it in his return. Here goes Morant. He spins. Morant scores! And the timer expires. Count the basket.
The return of one of the great, most exciting players of this generation, Memphis Grizzlies point guard Ja Morant. This is a guy that I've very much enjoyed watching play basketball since his college days. Can absolutely jump out of the gym. One of the most electric, skilled, athletically freaky. He's like Russell Westbrook with better handles.
I mean, he ain't no Darren Fox, but he's definitely really.
But he's a badass, and I love watching Ja Morant play. Finally got off of his 25-game suspension, or like a timeout, basically.
Yep.
And came back, and he talked about how he wasn't even planning on getting the game-winning shot, but his teammates drew it up for him perfectly.
Desmond
got
Bain.
it.
Yeah, it was cool.
Desmond Bain's like, no, man, you're getting it.
Fuck
you finish
that.
it, and he did that. It was awesome to see. So from a basketball standpoint, it is so great to see. I love watching John Morant. Like I said, he's one of my favorite players to watch. Electric player. So much fun. My L is also going to John Morant. Roll the beautiful bean footage, Trevor.
Gotcha.
Job running off the floor, someone caught you on camera saying, I keep receipts.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that? And secondly, what was your meeting?
I feel like it's self-explanatory. Yeah, I remember everything that was said.
I can't just enjoy a night of awesome basketball and an awesome storyline without Ja doing something. It's always something with this dude. I want to celebrate this guy so bad, and I wanted to believe. And for those that don't know, John Morant kept brandishing weapons on IG time and time again, and Adam Silver came down on him at one point. I think he only gave him like a 3 or 4 game suspension, which was pretty light compared. And then after that, they had to basically shut him down. And I was really, really hoping that Ja, during this time, would grow up, would understand that being a representative of the NBA, you can't be doing things like that on IG, brandishing weapons, doing that. And just for the record, guys, I'm not against people owning weapons, but that was the thing, is it wasn't even his weapon. They were in an area where you're not supposed to have guns and open carry, things of that nature, and he was doing that at nightclubs and things like that, and it was a really bad look for a guy that represents this league and is one of the superstars of this league. And it's so on brand that this goes this way that night, where he finally returns, has this big play, gets this team out of the gutter because the Grizzlies have been one of the worst teams in the league this season, and then he can't even leave the stadium, or the arena rather, without talking about receipts and talking about, oh, it's self-explanatory. No, John, it's not. Because only receipts that we now hold on to is the fact that you still didn't learn from your problems. You still didn't learn from
accountability.
your mistakes. Zero accountability, man.
Yep.
Like, what? Really? Who are you keeping receipts on? The people that are stating the facts? Yes, there are people going to talk shit on you, Joe, but that's even if you didn't do what you did. People are going to hate on you no matter what. So those are the receipts you're keeping? Why would you bring those up in this moment? And again, you have this awesome moment in basketball. You're back. You know, this big moment where this is like leading Sports Center, and we're all talking about it. And we're all excited to have you back because the league is so much better with you on the court, man.
Make it about that.
So much better. And you're sitting here talking about, I got receipts, and it's self-explanatory. It took away everything, man. Like, it literally, as fast as I gave you the W and as quick as I gave you the L, that's how it felt watching it all. Yeah. It really sucked. So as much of a W as I'm going to give you, Ja, you got to do me a solid, bro, and take something else, and
hold this L.
Yeah. Damn it, man. Grow up eventually, dude. Hopefully.
He's young, bro, and he's got a dad that wants to be more of a friend than a father, unfortunately.
Yeah, like, that's a whole other fucking topic we can go
and
down.
I'm not going to sit here and bash on dads, but yeah.
I love the fact his dad's involved, but
of course.
The
it's just like the Ball family.
Context.
Yeah,
the involvement is the context. Like you said, if you're too busy trying to be his buddy,
right,
on the sidelines trying to start fights with Shannon Sharp,
yeah,
you know, like that's not helping anything. Like LeVar Ball had controversial ways of going about things with his kids, but we always knew ball was the goal.
And
basketball was the goal.
I just. Of course, these people are going to be, and this is the last thing I'm going to say on this, these people are going to be individuals, right? That's why I always hated the shut up and dribble thing. That's not right either, but there is a medium here. You are working for a company. This is a job. You know, you got to understand how blessed you are to even have, they be in that position. Obviously, they put the sweat and the tears into becoming an athlete that can even make it to this point. John Morant is an absolute specimen of an athlete, for sure. No one's debating that, but this is a job.
Right.
You were hired by the NBA.
That's
you know what I mean?
This
is a private organization.
You're not a 1099.
You don't just get to do whatever you want to do. You sign those dotted lines, bro. Right. You have to abide by certain guilelines.
I really hope that it doesn't
take some accountability.
It doesn't cut his career short, because I remember we had the Zion John Morant comparison. Remember 2-3 years ago, 3-4 years ago,
right?
Like, who would you draft? I said Ja. I was like, I know Zion's like this specimen that is unattainable.
Less accountability on his end.
But Ja's the better basketball player.
Yeah.
I really believe that. I do. I do believe Ja's the better basketball player. And I think his career could be longer.
I just think Zion's defensive prowess is so ridiculous, what he can do defensively too. But Yeah, I think Ja is definitely shown to be more consistent and more of an electrifying offensive player for sure. And Zion it's more than just basketball for him.
And that's why I just what I hope more than anything is that Ja doesn't cut his own career short, because I think this dude's got Hall of Fame talent.
He's continuing to put targets on his own back.
Yeah,
man.
just stay out of trouble, bro. Just play your game, be awesome, make hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. Dude, you have an opportunity that everybody else wishes they had.
Yeah.
The physical abilities you have and the hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars that are just sitting there waiting for you to go and take. Bro, go be great. Please, don't worry about being gangster. Don't worry about trying to be like whatever you want to think whatever you're trying to be, because you grew up privileged. You grew up in a good neighborhood. You grew up well, man. Like, embrace that. Don't try to be the opposite of that. Like, I'm not trying to give, because look, Trevor and I grew up in an area where we were the minorities. Full disclosure here, man. We grew up in an area where most of our friends were Black, Hispanic, and Asian. And we saw how many of them went through shit that we never went through. We grew up fairly privileged, even though we grew up in the neighborhood. But we saw the disparity. We saw the discrepancy. Bro, you are born with supreme talent, whether you grew up in the hood or not, but you also have the advantage of not having grown up in the hood. You didn't have to make it out of the projects. You didn't have to make it out of that shit. You were born on second base. So use that, man. Be proud of that. Like, other people wish they had that. When people told me, Trevor, man, I wish we had what you guys had. You're right. And I'm very lucky and fortunate that Trevor and I, speaking of Christmases, a lot of times got to wake up and have a whole freaking wall full of Christmas presents. We were blessed kids. I'm not going to sit here and try to be something I'm not and act like I had it way worse than other people. So, Ja, take it from me, bro. Another person that grew up decently privileged, embrace it, dude, and use it to your advantage and be great. Go and do stuff and use your skill set to the best of your advantage, man. Quit worrying about all that pressure of trying to act like a hard ass or a badass or whatever you're trying to identify as, man. Go be something awesome, dude. I hope he does it, man, because I would hate to see his career get cut short, or even worse, something else getting cut short, man. I would hate to see that as well. So, You know what, guys? I'm going to end it there. Freaking great show. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It wasn't one of our longer shows, right over 2 hours. Usually Trevor and I are just breaking through our first segment at this point. Yeah. But you know what, man? We hope that we got your guys' Christmas weekend started off the right way. We're honored and privileged that you guys actually wanted to join in and chime in with us on this Christmas weekend. I know a lot of you guys are probably planning trips.
Also, don't forget that don't expect to see us at post game on Christmas. Yeah.
Thank you for saying that. I'm glad you did say that. Yeah. So those of you that do chime in or that tune in to our Chatting of the Chiefs post game show, Trevor and I and Book will not be on after the Chiefs game this week. We, obviously it's Christmas Day. It's gonna be very difficult for Trevor and I to do that. Book is already out of town. He's with famous people. Yeah. You know how they do things. But us other people are gonna be busy with family stuff. So I hope you guys understand that we are actually, believe it or not, after Brian just praised us for being Mr. Consistent here, we are actually not gonna be doing a post game show on Christmas. But you guys will see us next Saturday to talk about that. But in the meantime, man, if you guys are fiending on some stuff, from what I know, correct me if I'm wrong here, but Clint, Noah, Shane, Michael, and Brian B. Shinen are supposed to be joined by Solomon Wilcots to talk on Arrowhead Allies this week. If I'm not mistaken, I think they're supposed to be talking about the Chiefs-Bengals game coming up next week.
Nice.
So tune in on that. I think those are on Tuesdays, if I'm not mistaken. Arrowhead Allies. So if you guys are missing our show for a few days, don't worry about it, man. Tuesday, they should take care of you guys on Arrowhead Allies. They have really good information.
Yeah, I'll be 7 cinnamon rolls deep, so do not come a-calling.
But nevertheless, even if you guys want to keep talking to us, chime in on here. Guys, get on YouTube. Like I say at the top of the show, say at the bottom of the show. Like, subscribe, notify, and get in the comments. Keep chatting, keep talking. Jump on our Facebook page where the party never stops. Get on Twitter at The Spoken Pod. You see our handles as well at the bottom of the screen. Keep talking, guys. The sports talk does not stop no matter what time of the day or what time of the year. We keep this bad boy rolling, and we appreciate you guys being a part of this bad boy. So for the meantime, for Trevor Twidwell, for the great Clay Windler that puts all this together on the back end of things, I'm Lance Twidwell. The Spoken Podcast, episode 248 is done, finished, and finito. And until we're back here in 1 week's time for episode 249 to talk about the Chiefs getting that much closer to potentially getting that 1 seed, we out of this bitch.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.